investment, that essentially a remaster of Lord of the Rings Online would cost as much as making a new MMO. And that remaster was actually technically more properly announced than EverQuest III has been. And yet it still got cut by EG7, who, as a reminder, owns EverQuest. I was hoping I'd see some mention of EverQuest III in the Q1 financials of EG7, but so far, nothing. This is so important because from that first-party game slide, 2025 was the start of investment.
Oh man, my allergies.
Target release of 2028. I'd love to see that slide get updated with the current plan and progress. But the next figure I think might not be as obvious unless you're just, well, playing MMOs over the last 10 to 15 years. But no less worrying. Since EverQuest launched back in 1999, it's gone through a lot of iterations in how they monetize. From box and sub only to free-to-play options, to an increasingly aggressive store, to Chrono, which are essentially RMT currencies, and now even adding optional sub-perks like extra bag slots, bonus experience, and such. But it's not EverQuest 1 and their monetization that worries me the most, even if I freaking hate Chrono. It's EverQuest 2. EverQuest 2, despite being the sequel, has always been smaller than EverQuest 1, never hitting the highs of EQ1, or really never working out the way they had expected, with people moving on from EQ1 to EverQuest 2. What I've seen over the last few years in EQ2 at times appears to kind of be a testing ground for some aggressive monetization that probably wouldn't fly in EverQuest 1 with their larger player base. Basically, boundary testing. From paid research to get higher level spells to accusations of pay to win with raid chests, which allowed players to pay money to get more loot chances. We already know from that slide that the business model is going to be a hybrid premium with microtransactions. So basically, what EverQuest, EverQuest 2, Lord of the Rings Online, etc. all have right now. The biggest question for me is, will they get too greedy? We all know games cost money, but monetization is the constant seesaw between not enough to fund the game and too much to where it relies only on whales funding the game and degrading the experience for the vast majority of players to where they either feel forced to spend money they don't want or just not play. I kind of see this in a continuum of maybe if you consider like Embers Adrift on the needing more money to fund the game to basically Diablo Immortal, making the game so unplayable with too many microtransactions that it essentially works by working on those whales and only those whales. It's never going to be a game that has mass adoption. It's a game that digs into your pocket and that's it. I guess the people that like it digging into their pocket enjoy it because it's still going. But those are my hopes and fears for an EverQuest 3. Although they won't be calling it EverQuest 3. A game that may forever just live in our minds. Or maybe the thing that we have been waiting for over a decade. There's a lot more to unpack, like the issues of failed promises from EQ Next and Landmark, pre-orders, founders packs, forced closure of MMOs like Vanguard Saga of Heroes, SOE selling off everything, being bought out by investment companies, basically the whole lot of shit that happened, and how they could have potentially forever damaged this IP to a place where it can't really recover. My hope for that, my biggest hope, and perhaps this is just the general hope, not just for EverQuest 3, but for Daybreak, is that having this ability to hire new people, to really work on something new, not just the thing that they know they're going to be working on, like a new expansion, but work on something new, entirely new, get those creative juices going, get that creative process going, that this helps revitalize Daybreak in ways that continuing on their current trajectory won't. That this kind of helps break them from that quagmire of stink from when they swung and missed so terribly with EverQuest Next. But whatever happens, whatever way this game comes about, you know I'll at least be trying it, because I will always go back to Norath. Side note, if anyone from Daybreak happens to be watching this video, what about a Champions of Norath 3? Lords of Norath 2? Just throwing that out there. My name is River Flynn, thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have an absolutely wonderful day.
Oh man.
When was the last time you had a real meal? With hearty steak and big shrimp, cooked over a roaring flame? Speaking of flames, why are you still single? Have you eaten yet?
Thunderhead Harley Davidson. Introducing the 2024 Harley Davidson Street Bob 114. Stripped down for the street, built for the ride of your life.
First, Savage, Wing, in the back. Oh! Well, Kyle.
Yes, Garrett.
I don't think we're new players anymore.
Savage will do that to you.
Savage will do a lot of things to you. Here we go. Oh my God, Gigi! Yeah! Oh! Yeah! Yeehaw!
And this was the easy one, too.
Oh yeah, no one will let you forget that.
It was plenty hard.
Yeah, just go, you know what? We'll wait. Get it out of your system. Comment below. Let us know why what we did isn't as important as what you did.
It was hard. It was actually hard. I learned a lot. I had to do a lot. I had to do a lot of things I didn't think I'd have to do. I'm embarrassed for my past self, which means I've grown as a person.
I mean, I'm kind of in a constant state of embarrassment for my past self, so I don't think anything about Savage is unique in that way.
I mean, I just, how many MSQ watchers had to watch me pull like that? Rotate like that? Hard like that?
In their defense, they did try and tell you,
It wasn't necessary yet.
100%. Yeah, like, we've done some pretty tough extremes. And I think when it comes to, like, Black Cat, and I would even say Honeybee, I know you don't think you think M3S is easier than Honeybee, which I think is insane.
Yes and no.
The point I'm trying to make is that I think the first two Savages for the Arcadian, which is what we're here to talk about today, are easier than some extremes.
I think that's fair. Yeah.
With the big caveat of we do extremes blind, we did not do the Savages blind.
No.
We would go incrementally, mechanic by mechanic, and when we saw a new mechanic and dive to it, we would then crack open a Hector guide and watch just that mechanic, and then practice it. And when we got it back down, we moved on to the next mechanic. Which I like that system. I recommend if you're new to Savage, I think you should steal it. I think you should do that system. But that's the hard part to fathom. I can definitely say right now, in the case of things like M3S and M4S, they're so mechanically dense. I cannot imagine doing them blind. I don't think I would particularly enjoy doing them blind.
There's a lot of tradition, as people call things names of the previous mechanics in order to relate to them. That that would help you blind into the future.
And that was my big level up. Was just like, oh, I need to know about clock spots, pair ups, spread positions, light party groups, and just probably think about that any fight I ever go into, because it'll probably be at least a little bit important.
On the absurd amount of tradition, which is useful, but we've never done to this point in how many extremes blind, such as, the DPS are usually in one cardinal direction, and the supports usually end up in kind of that southwestern area.
Well, that's the thing that by the end of M4S, I was ready to burn it all down, because you don't do any of that in M4S, and every time you ask why, they say uptime.
It's what they're there to do. You're tanking, I'm healing, I've got extra activities, they want theirs.
They do want content if you haven't gotten a bunch of good gear, because we are doing this patch later, which, wait, someone's commenting below that, but you guys did it a patch later. Let's wait for them.
Our gear was better than, week 1 players. That happened.
Black Cat. Really like this fight. Super fun. One of my favorites in normal. I just love the breaking of the tiles and like the suplexing of individual players and needing to aim yourself so you don't break a cracked tile. Like, I love that mechanic. So fun, so thematic. I enjoy wrestling. Funny enough though, like, I think if this is really fun, a fight I will totally do again. Probably other than M4S, the fight I still struggle with the most.
You gotta do tank stuff.
I do have to do tank stuff.
Putting the boss places.
And this is I've never struggled with shot calling more in my life. I would call it like the 3/4 mark through the fight, so you get through the first broken arena phase, and then you come out to the double clone phase. I just call it double clones.
Sleepy clones.
It's time for sleepy clones. Sleepy clones. Sleepy clones. Sleepy clones.
That was tough.
It is tough. Yeah, I really struggle with shot calling because, and I'm just can I get some shit off my chest?
Go for it.
Oh my god, the amount of let's just call it crap I've received from calling tank relative positions when it gets loaded into the clone and the clone has a literal fucking arrow, just like the boss does. That's to everybody relevant directions.
I mean,
Those directions are relevant to everybody.
You're arguing with tradition, and that's the barrier they have, and we have.
I'm actually not arguing with tradition. I feel like I'm arguing with subpar teachers. It's because when one person finally said, just call letters, I was like, oh, okay. We're literally dropping markers on the arena.
In their eyes, A is very important. How many times have we been told to look at the lines on the floor, right? Lines on the floor, they're helpful. And it's true.
Sometimes. Some of these fights, they're not helpful at all.
Sometimes they're like really, really helpful, like in Bomber, but we'll get there.
They are extremely helpful in Bomber.
The arena itself in Black Hat, completely useless. The billboards all show the same things. The crowd is circular. There is no way to orient yourself.
And the arena is a symmetrical square.
Visually on where you are. And so even overcoming that hump was difficult for me, to just acknowledge where A is and know that D is next to A. And in between are numbers.
The last difficult piece of content that we did, which was Speen Extreme, was a highly oriented fight because it's a torso boss. She's always at the north end of the arena. So the boss herself is this beautiful orienting graphic. And you don't really have that outside of markers here. So yeah, if you were already struggling to even
My allergies are
use
killing me.
markers with knowledge, then yeah, this first fight is won't be a tough one.
There's a big barrier.
You gotta use the markers. Are you trying to get me to agree with the people that were giving me hell in chat? Because if they're all, I didn't see that they were saying A was important, but I'm a tank, so A is very important to me.
No, I don't. I'm in our orientation for Savage. We did not use land markers very often because in something like Extreme, just spread out to the wind was enough and would help us survive. And wherever you happen to be, just don't be next to somebody. But here you had to be on a point, trading that point out. And sometimes even putting your brain 3 steps ahead. And all of those sort of tied to the mechanics of Black Cat, but they're extremely integral to being able to ride that bicycle.
So yeah, while I would probably recommend Black Cat as a newcomer's first Savage, you know, I felt like we were just getting started. So, Honeybee Lovely.
Honeybee. Random bullshit go.
This is what I expected Savage to be. And while I do think this is right in line with Black Cat on difficulty, like, personally, there's so much more to learn. For me, now that I've done it, most of it is surprisingly still in my head when we've gone and done re-clears. I haven't struggled with this one on a personal level. There's not nearly as much tank important things that must be pulled off like Black Cat, which is probably playing a role. I mean, all of these, there's just so much dancing that must be done, regardless of your role. And if you screw it up, you're screwing it up for at least your partner, if not half the team or the entire team.
Props to the designer for slowly edging in the amount of you will kill everybody when you F off.
Yes.
Because putting hearts out might kill people, but it'll certainly make the boss harder. And as we get deeper and deeper, that becomes more and more extreme.
No, it becomes more savage.
It becomes more savage, yeah. There's no repeats here. And that's, I think, the big hurdle. Once you learn Black Cat, it's a little rinse and repeat. Every time we do this, I have to refresh what's phase 2, what's phase 3, and what's phase 4. Also, like, do 0 hearts go in, or is 1 heart doing the dance? Like, that stuff falls very easily out of my head for re-clears. I struggled with a lot of personal stuff, such as Pheromones 2. Pheromones 2, with the little arrows going, I would always get clipped by the old arrow, the boogers on the ground. Like, that was a huge hurdle for me. Let's find out with my third-party tools here what I struggled with the most, shall we?
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Oh yeah, this was the 0 hearts go.
Let's see, I've got...
Yeah, what have you got?
Pheromones too.
Yeah, Pheromones too. Yeah.
Yeah. But for me, it was just remind myself to call roll stacks, because I always forgot that at the end of Pheromones too.
The super duper center for the explosions that are being dropped off by the debuffs.
Oh yes, the support or DPS
Yeah, the very,
debuffs.
very
Well, you both get debuffs, but one is long, one is short. Yes, and you need to be middle.
This is just an arrow of where I would go first during alarm pheromones too.
Oh,
Should I
man.
go first?
Yes. And can I see this real quick though?
Yeah.
So this is the direction you should go. This was like the direction you seem to always go.
Well, that's because
Regardless if you were first, second, third, or fourth.
well, that's because I would end up, here's 1, 2, and
So handsome.
Oh, I can't buy this.
Whoa. Your Empower investment account has grown. You earned it. Oh, get good at movies so you can be a little bad. Empower.
When that first sip hits, you're so ready for more. Yes to that bold pick-me-up. Bring on refreshing sips. Any flavor milkshake? So down. Crave it, sip it, fave it. All frozen drinks at Baskin-Robbins are $5, $6, or $7.
Hey, what's going on? My name's Vit, and it's been a minute. I haven't put out a video in a couple weeks, but we are back, and I have finally leveled all of my jobs in Dawn Trail to level 100. Finally made it. At least the combat jobs. We'll ignore that crafters and gatherers exist for now. I'll get back to that in maybe next year. I don't know. But I got all the main combat jobs up to 100. I finally feel good about talking about all of them. And in this video, we're actually just going to rank them all on a tier list that I have right here.
Oh, man.
I'm going to try to
Yeah.
be fairly unbiased.
Oh, man, I'm tired.
It's just for fun, right? Don't take this to heart. But I'm going to try to give a little overview on each job, highlight, know, what they're good at, what they're bad at level 100, and kind of highlight their playstyles a bit, and then try to rank them on this tier list, I guess, to see where everything falls. Again, it's, you know, it's my opinion, but I'm going to try to be fairly objective and, you know, have a mix of both. Have a bit of my personal bias, have a bit of that objectiveness, I guess. And we'll see where we end up, but let's just jump right into it and start talking about all these jobs. Alright, so jumping into the tier list, I think we're going to start out with all the melee, and we're going to go about this in whatever order I feel like. We'll start with the melee because that's what I play the most. I've been doing the whole raid tier on a bunch of the different melee jobs. I've cleared the entire Savage raid tier on 4 out of the 6 melees now. So I have the best understanding of how they work. I've played some of the other jobs here and there in Savage, but not to the extent that I have with the melees. So we'll start there. We'll start with Dragoon. This is my personal main, and I'm going to throw Dragoon in A tier. It's, you know, again, try not to be super biased here, so it could easily be S. It's between A and S for me, but I don't know, there's a few things that hold Dragoon back when you compare it against the other melee specifically. Dragoon is a super burst heavy melee where your burst window is just so busy every single minute, every 2 minutes especially. You've basically just got to double weave buttons throughout the entire length of your buffs. You can't drift anything at all, or else it falls outside of those buffs, and it's just a really tight, really busy burst window, especially like even compared to some of the other busy melee. Dragoon is just, it's got a lot going on during burst. Outside of burst, it doesn't have a whole lot to do. In Dawn Trail, it got simplified a little bit as far as the rotation goes. You only have 2 positionals for every, you know, what is it? It's got less positionals. I forget the exact number, but where you used to have Fang and Claw, Wheeling Thrust, and then you would alternate between those 2 with the addition of Chaotic Spring. Now, one of these turns into Trickspan, which does not have a positional, so that being said, there's one less positional for every loop of the rotation, so it's a little more simple in that regard. Dragoon does have some of the stronger buffs in the game, like Litany is super powerful. It's a crit buff, but I think it ends up being like 5.2% damage or something, somewhere around there. It's a very strong party buff, and, you know, even outshines some of the other melee party buffs just slightly, but, you know, that's something to consider. But some of the stuff that holds Dragoon back, it has no personal mitigation, which is kind of huge when you compare it to some of the other jobs and their utility. When you look at like Monk or Samurai or Reaper, like, they just have personal utility and even party utility in Monk's case that just far outshines Dragoon, and I think that is the one thing that's keeping it out of S tier for me. Like, again, on a personal level, Dragoon is my favorite job in the game. It's S tier for me, but being a little more objective, you know, that's probably going to keep it out of S. However, Dragoon is really good when you look at its recovery. So, like, if you die in a fight and get back up, there's no real gauge that you have to, like, work to build up like you do on some of the other melees, like Samurai or Reaper. Samurai, you gotta, like, build up your stickers to go into your Midare, and, like, that sort of thing. Reaper, obviously, if you die on Reaper, it's like the end of the world. Your burst is just gone, like, all your gauge is gone, and it's just over. Dragoon doesn't really suffer from that at all. You can just get up, and your whole burst is really just on a 1-minute timer. Whenever you go into your Skogul, you just do your burst. So, as long as you're not drifting stuff, like, you don't really get punished for dying on Dragoon, unless, of course, you die, like, during your burst, but any job that's terrible for her, so, I don't know. Dragoon's really good for prog. It's really good for, like, ultimates where, you know, just having that burst ready to go, you don't have to build into it. It can be good. I don't know. I haven't really played this in Ultimate myself yet. We'll see how it is in the new Ultimate. It's likely the job that I'll be playing in through. So, yeah, I don't know. It's very well-rounded. It's a solid job, but, again, There are just a few little things keeping it out at S when you look at some of the next jobs. Speaking of which, we will talk about Monk. And Monk is going straight into S tier. I think Monk is potentially the best melee in the game. It has so much party utility and personal utility that just outshines many of the other jobs. It has really good damage, pretty much the same as Dragoon, right? So, it has a 5% party buff with Brotherhood. It's got a personal buff. It has a somewhat busy burst, but it honestly doesn't feel anywhere near as bad as Dragoon's. And with the with the level 100 abilities, with Dawn Trail coming out, the release of Dawn Trail, Monk lost its personal damage buff that you have to keep up, the buff that's on a timer, and its dot that was also on a timer. So you used to have to manage two different timers and do your combo to reapply them at the correct time. You don't have to worry about that anymore with current Monk, and I feel like this has improved the gameplay of it so much. It used to be really cumbersome to juggle those two different buffs. They were on really weird timers. I believe it was like 15 seconds and 18 seconds. And like you still do the same general rotation that would apply those buffs. It still works in a very similar way. But like I don't know, it just frees up a lot of mental space for me not having to watch those timers. Yeah, and I don't know, it just works very organically now. Where the rotation just flows in a really smooth way. The burst sets up and lines up in a really smooth way where it's not crazy busy or fast. Like Monk does have a really fast GCD time of like 1.94 seconds, at least with the best in slot gear, or at the proper skill speed. And you know, it does feel pretty quick. Like it's easier on Monk to like, you know, have your buttons come up faster than you think they're going to, and like you have to really be on top of your combo and pressing the right buttons, knowing what buttons to press. But you know, there's only 6 buttons in your combo, so it's not too bad. It's pretty intuitive once you get some practice under your belt. But Monk really has a ton of utility, and that's what makes it shine. On top of it, it's like, you know, its damage is like very much par for the course for the melee. Like all the melee are super well balanced. So like between all these jobs, the damage is like not really a factor when you're looking at the melees. So it really comes down to the other things that the jobs bring to the table. And again, Monk has Brotherhood, 5% buff. It has Mantra, which is a healing potency buff. So you put that out and healers just heal more. Anybody healing heals more. So that's really cool. That's really fun to optimize. It's useful. Monk also has, I believe it's a 20% personal mitigation with Riddle of Earth. So they've just got this like huge personal mitt that they can use to, you know, reduce incoming damage. And then you have Earth's Reply, which is the follow-up to that, which does, I think it's a 500 potency heal. And it's a really small radius, but it's like a party-wide heal. So if everybody's grouped up, you can actually like heal the party, and between that and Mantra, like it just feels like you're being super useful on Monk. So I don't know, Monk is one of the tankier melees. It's the healer of all the melees, more so than any other. Reaper has a bit of healing too, but I don't know, Monk's healing feels the most valuable, the most beneficial to the party, and I don't know, it's just super fun to play. I've been playing this job on my alt. I geared Samurai and Monk. I'm still working on some Monk gear, still need the weapon, but I've been playing this in reclears lately, and it is, you know, tied for the top with Dragoon for me right now. I think those are my 2 favorite jobs in the game at the minute, but I think Monk just offers more. So both awesome jobs. There's really not much else to say about Monk other than that you should absolutely give it a shot. It's one of the best jobs in the game at the minute, and one of the most fun too. So moving on from that, we've got Viper. I will forever mix those 2 names up. Viper is not my favorite. It's probably my least favorite of the melee. I haven't really played it a ton. I played it enough to get the feel for it. Played it in some casual content. I've still not done Savage on Viper or Ninja because I'm still trying to gear those a little bit before I take them in. I've been spending time on the other jobs as well. But Viper for me is going to go in B tier. It's kind of just average. Suffers from the same thing that Dragoon does, but even worse. It has no personal mitigation, no healing, has no party buff. It's just pure damage. And in that regard, pure damage, I'm pretty sure it's even getting outshined by Samurai in that department as like a pure damage dealer. I think Samurai's doing even better than Viper is. I could be slightly off on that. I forget the details exactly. That's not going to play a factor of where this stands, though. Yeah, I don't know. Viper doesn't really bring a whole lot outside of the fact that it does a bunch of damage, which, you know, is good. It's easy to play, but again, I think it's just kind of middle of the road. I don't think Viper has a whole lot of job identity either. They took away Noxious Nash back in 7.05 when that released, and oh man, I don't know. I think it was 7.05. Correct me if I'm wrong there. I don't know. It doesn't matter. But that took away like the one thing that Viper had that was like any sense of job identity, where it's like, you know, a poison snake bite or something. And now it just has nothing related to snakes, to vipers, to anything. Like, it's just got two swords, which I guess are like two fangs. It's got Slither, which is its gap closer. It's just the name of it. Like, it doesn't really have anything too interesting about it. In my opinion, it's just, I don't know. It's, if you like the Blade class design, like, it's cool, right? It's fast, it's flashy, but I don't know. There's not a whole lot of substance to it, in my opinion. But it's still, you know, a pretty easy job to pick up and do a lot of damage with. If you're new to Melee, it's really solid. It does have Uncoiled Fury, which is its ranged attack, which is one of the most broken ranged attacks in the game. You get like 3 stacks of it, and you know, it does a ton of damage. You can just be out at like 20 yards away throwing this ranged attack with a couple of off GCD follow-ups, and you know, like, I don't know, with some of the downtime in this raid tier, Viper just doesn't sweat it whatsoever. It can just go out, throw its ranged attacks, and not worry about it. So that's like the one cool thing it's got going for it, in my opinion. It's got a fair amount of positionals. It's really not that busy. It's kind of fast, but like, I don't know. It's kind of just like steady throughout its rotation, where, you know, Dragoon, Ninja, Monk even are pretty like burst heavy, fast jobs. Viper's kind of just like flatline, like you're pressing a good amount of buttons constantly, but like the burst doesn't feel that much busier. It's like, it's got a faster GCD like Ninja does, somewhere around like 2.1, 2.12, whatever it is, I forget exactly. But, you know, it doesn't, like when I play Viper, it just doesn't feel as fast as Ninja, Dragoon, Monk. It's kind of just middle of the road in every aspect, in my opinion. It's a fun job. If you like the aesthetic of it, go for it. But those are the things that will prevent it from placing higher on the list for me. So after that, we've got Samurai. I've spent a lot of time playing Samurai on my ult. I think I did like 6 weeks of re-clears on Samurai. And this job is going S tier. I don't think it brings, I don't know, it's close. I don't know if I'm going to rank things left to right on like within each tier, but it's up there with Monk for sure. It is currently, I believe, the highest damaging job in the game. I haven't checked a lot of the damage numbers recently, but last I checked it was. Samurai is insane. The rotation is so much fun. It is kind of like a slower paced job that just hits like a truck. It's got a really fun, fairly flexible rotation that's not too busy during any part of it. You're often just single weaving a lot of stuff. You do have some cast times, and in the past I've complained about those. And the cast times on some of your abilities can be a little tricky to deal with. While you're trying to move for certain mechanics, it can like slow you down when you need to get into position, but I don't know. A few pulls in, a little bit of practice, and you get really used to that. Samurai also has potentially the best personal mitigation in the entire game for the melees. With Tengetsu, it is pretty broken. It's like a personal shield that you throw up. It lasts 4 seconds, and does 10% damage mitigation. However, if you get hit when it's up within those 4 seconds, it basically breaks. It doesn't really break because it's not technically a shield, it's just mitt. But if you get hit when you have it on, it applies a regen, which is pretty potent. So you just regen health after you get hit, and it extends the length of that mitigation. So you get that 10% mitt for like another 9 seconds, I think it is. So, I don't know, just the healing that comes off of it, the 10% mitt, it's really good, and it's on such a short cooldown. I think it's 15 seconds. It also gives you gauge when you're hit with it up. So, you can do more damage, and Samurai has a lot of fun optimizations that require you to stand in AoEs to get hit by things to build gauge faster using this ability, and it's just really cool. It's just super interesting. Samurai's got crazy range, actually, with Madare, with Ogi, with Higginbana. You've basically got double max melee range on Samurai with those abilities, and with Dawntrail now, you can basically bank a Madare follow-up and use it whenever you want. Before, it would break that combo, and, you know, you wouldn't be able to, you would have to do them both back-to-back, like Madare, and then the follow-up to Madare, the second Madare, whatever it's called. I'm going off the top of my head here, I haven't refreshed on some of this stuff. But now you can, like, do your first Madare, continue your combo, do the second one when you need to, so you can, like, save it if you know that you need to go out and disengage from the boss of it to get that extra range. You can save it for that. It's really fun trying to optimize that stuff. Samurai has, like, the most planning and thought to its rotation compared to any of the other melee. It's basically just the black mage of melees, in my opinion, where, like, you know, you can kind of mix and match your rotation, at least old Endwalker black mage. So, yeah, it's just a really interesting job, in my experience, from picking it up and learning it. It really was a blast playing this job. I think I still prefer Monk, personally, so I'm going to leave it in this order. Monk still brings so much to the table for your party with its buffs, with its healing. Samurai's just bringing damage, and it does bring a lot of damage, so yeah, it's worth bringing for sure. Like, it's doing an incredible job with that. And if you like a more thoughtful rotation, if you like planning things out a bit more, I would encourage you to pick up Samurai. It's really fun for that. Not much else to say about it. Super solid pick on both of these for S tier. Both definitely outshining the lower tiers, in my opinion. So, what do we got next? Next on the melee list would be Reaper. And this one's kind of tough for me. It's personally one of my least favorite jobs. I like it more than Viper, but I think it needs to go a tier higher than Viper for sure. I feel pretty good about putting it here. Honestly, it could go above Dragoon as well.
Oh, man.
You know, like I said, I'm going to have a little bit of personal bias here, so I'm going to have Dragoon above it still. Just because, I don't know, it kind of falls into the same camp as Samurai, where it's a bit slow. It just hits really hard. Like, it is really easy to do a lot of damage on Reaper. The things I don't really like about it are, you know, personal taste things. Like, I don't really like the animations. I don't really
Right back, guys.
a lot of the spell effects on it, but again, that's just personal preference. Keeping up Death's design is a struggle sometimes. And, you know, the burst window is actually, the whole rotation on Reaper is incredibly strict, because you need to be building gauge constantly. And if you ever have to disengage the boss, if you ever lose uptime, and you don't continuously build gauge, that is going to catch up to you in the length of a fight. So by the time you get to the end of the fight, it's going to be a real struggle. You're going to start to feel that you don't have enough gauge going into your burst windows. If you make mistakes, if you disengage, if you don't keep full uptime, Reaper can be one of the most punishing of all of the melee, in my opinion. Because of that, if you die, like I said earlier, you lose all your gauge, you lose a lot of the potency in your burst. Again, with the strictness of its rotation, ideally you want to be doing a double in Shroud for your 2-minute burst, and in order to do that, it's quite a tight rotation to pull that off and get everything under buffs. So it's, you know, I'm new to Reaper. I haven't played a whole lot of it. I did my reclears on it this week, and I feel like I played pretty well. But, you know, I was still struggling with some of that stuff. It's not the end of the world if you mess it up. Like, you're still doing really good damage, but that's just, like, optimization stuff, right? But, like, that's what you're shooting for, and, like, you know, that's what you should be doing with your rotation, and it kind of doesn't feel great when you don't get it for whatever reason. If you, like, drift one button too long, or you enter your burst window, like, slightly too early, it's like everything gets thrown off. I also don't really like when I need to disengage on Reaper. Like, it does have some good tools for range. It's got Harvest Moon, which is kind of like a one-time use thing, unless you can correct the recast, which is like, I think a 5-second recast on that. You've got Harp, which is your ranged attack, which has a cast time. Unless you teleport beforehand, then it's an instant cast. Communio is ranged, but the odds of that lining up when you need it are very slim, because you've got a lot of like fast, close ranged attacks leading into it with your Enshroud. So it's like, I don't know, it's not really that flexible when it comes to ranged effectiveness, I guess. So when you have to disengage, you're basically just sitting there throwing a harp. And, you know, it's good, it does decent damage compared to a lot of the other melee ranged attacks, but it just feels a little bit more cumbersome than some of the other melee ranged attacks, where on Dragoon it's like, I can just throw a spear. It's not a good thing to be doing, but, you know, it's easy, it feels fine. On Reaper it's like a bit more cumbersome, I guess. I don't know. It's not the job for me, I have found, but it is still very solid. It brings a 3% raid buff, which is the weakest raid buff of all the melee, outside of the jobs that don't have a raid buff. But it does have a very strong personal with Arcane Crest, and that's basically a shield that you put on yourself, and when it breaks, it does party-wide healing as well. And you can use that pretty frequently. Super solid ability, and for me, I think that alone bumps it up from maybe B tier to A tier. Just the party utility from those heals go a long way. You can really protect yourself with the personal and help heal up the party afterwards. And it's a fun job, don't get me wrong. If you like the vibe that Reaper brings, then by all means, it's doing great damage, probably even better than Dragoon. At least on my reclears, it was easier to pull off damage compared to Dragoon. It's easier to play this job well than almost any of the others, I would say. I don't know about Viper, I haven't played this one in the raid tier yet, but Reaper and Viper are the two easiest to play melee by a mile, I would say. So there's something to be said for that too. So last but not least, with the melee, we have Ninja, and Ninja will be an A tier. I think it's top of A tier even. I think it brings a bit more than Dragoon does.
Just another second, guys.
Party buff with Dokumori, or the upgraded version of Mug. Ninja really didn't change at all from Endwalker to Dawn Trail. It's pretty much the exact same job with the addition of like a couple little things here and there that didn't change its playstyle whatsoever. We got rid of Huton, and it's now just like a trait. You still have Huton, it's an AoE, but you use that in dungeon pulls now to apply your trick attack, or Kunai's Bane as it's now called. But that haste buff that Huton used to give is just now a passive trait, which is cool. So you've got your like Kunai gauge in place of it, which is incredibly straightforward. You do Armor Crush to build gauge and Aeolian Edge to spend gauge. That's as simple as that goes. That's pretty much the end of it. There's some optimizations with that, like ending on your last kunai, you know, like ending the fight, having used them all. That's pretty much the extent of it, I guess, having them prepped when you need them. But outside of that, there's really not much else. But Ninja's really solid. It's got a lot of ranged attacks. It's kind of like the caster of the melees, where during burst, like, the majority of your burst you can do at range, which is really cool for like downtime situations. The issue with that is that they need to line up with the mechanics, right? So, from what I've heard, again, I have not played Ninja this raid tier myself, but I'm pretty sure Ninja can keep full uptime throughout the raid tier with no problem. But, you know, a lot of those things that you think, like, oh, I can just use a Raiton for this, it might not line up perfectly. So, there's some of that to consider, but having the range that Ninja does is super valuable. You can't deny that. This could be an S tier job, honestly. I don't know. I think I'm going to keep it an A tier. It is possibly the most busy burst in the game. I think Ninja has the highest skill floor of any job in the game as well, potentially. Like, upon first picking up a job, it's probably like this in Black Mage. Upon first picking up the job, like, how hard is it to, like, do the opener, do the rotation, do the burst? Ninja is pretty tough to, like, get it all out in order perfectly. Once you get it, it's really smooth, I think. But there's a lot of buttons, and you have to do them usually in a pretty specific order. You also have Penchi Jin, which is, like, an ability where you can't move or else it cancels and basically, like, nullifies that ability. So you have to sit there for like 3 GCDs for Tenchi and Jin to get them all out, and that can get you into some dicey situations. So that's one thing that like is always really cumbersome on Ninja. But yeah, Ninja and Dragoon both definitely have the 2 busiest bursts of the melee, and probably all the jobs in the game. I can't really think of anything off the top of my head that's busier than these 2. Monk is up there as well, but Ninja's got like a fast GCD speed. Dragoon just has a lot of weaves. It's got a slow GCD at 2.5, but lots of double weaving. Ninja's just got a lot of everything. It's fast, it's got a lot of weaves. It's a lot to take in for sure. It's got a good personal mitigation with Shade Shift, just a 20% nit, or is it the 20% shield? One of the 2, I forget exactly. But super solid, well-rounded. The only issue I have with Ninja at the moment is that you just have to work really hard for that damage. When you compare it with the other job in its class, Viper, both of these are scouting jobs. Viper does not have to work anywhere near as hard as Ninja to do its damage, right? Like, Viper, you're just chilling, kicking back, pumping out damage. Ninja, you are kind of sweating a bit to do your damage on. It can be really rewarding to do this one correctly, but I feel like it should be doing more than Viper for the work that you gotta put in. But that's just a personal thing, I guess. Ninja is super fun. It's probably my second main behind Dragoon. It's like, as far as what I've played the most over the years. Love this job. Love all these melees, honestly. Maybe not this one. I gotta play more. I still gotta play Viper and get a better opinion of it, but it's the least interesting. Everything else, super solid pick. The striking jobs can't be beat, honestly. I think they, like, if you've got a monk and a samurai in your party, like, that's the way to go. But, you know, Dragoon, Ninja, Reaper, even Viper, all of these are super solid. Can't go wrong with any of them. Alright, moving right along, let's talk about the casters next. I guess we'll try to get through all the DPS first, and then get to the tanks and healers. But yeah, we'll start with the casters. First one on the list, first one I see, is Summoner. And if you've watched any videos on this channel, you know that this one is going in D tier. It's even the same color, look at that. Summoner, man, it's one of the weakest jobs in the game. It's currently broken. Square Enix even admitted it, and they're just like, yeah, we'll fix it next patch in a couple months, I guess. It's not apparently the potencies when you summon your Ifrit, Garuda, and Titan are just lower than they were supposed to be by like 50 each. It's not a whole lot, but it's doing less damage than it's meant to be doing, and it's really hurting. I don't think that's the main issue. I think it's just kind of in a really weird spot where the job is just disappointing to play, to look at. The job fantasy is not there. It could be so much cooler. Maybe this is a bit of a biased take with this one, but I don't like this job at all. It's
Okay.
the weakest job in the game with very little redeeming qualities. One thing it has going for it is that it's a caster with very few cast times. It plays more like a fizz ranged than a caster a lot of the times.
Oh, shoot.
Look at that as a negative, personally. If I'm playing caster, I want to be casting.
Kill myself on the green screen.
It's in a bad spot at the minute, and it needs the most help out of any job in the game, in my opinion. It just has so much potential. They could have done so many more things, more interesting things with this job, giving it more summons. I don't know, literally anything, and it's just lacking. I'm not going to spend too much time on this one, because there's not really anything to talk about. It's just got a very simple rotation. There was almost nothing interesting added in Dawn Trail over Endwalker. It was already lacking in Endwalker as well. I had a lot of the same feelings about it then as I do now, and it's doing even worse damage now than it was then compared to the other jobs. Yeah, I don't know. Summoner's just in a bad spot. I'm praying it gets some help in the next patch. It needs something. So we'll leave it at that. Summoner, we'll pray for you, but currently it's probably going to be one of the only jobs in D tier. And on the opposite end of the spectrum, we've got Pictomancer, which Summoner was the worst. Pictomancer might be the best job in the game at the minute. Very similar to Monk, where it just brings a lot to the table. Picto's kind of the same story. It's got good movement for a caster. It's got more casts than Summoner, that's for sure. But it has Smudge, which is the best ability in the game for movement. You can just like instantly dash on Avant style, but further and more responsive. So you can move between casts very easily where you need to go. It's got a big party buff. It's got party heals. It's got party shields. It's got some of the highest damage in the game. It's literally got everything you could ever ask for in a job. It's kind of broken, honestly. Pictomancer is insane. Not everybody loves the art style of the abilities, the design that goes along with it, but, you know, the sound effects, the spell effects, that's a personal preference thing. I don't mind it. I think it's super fun to play. The rotation is flexible. If you die and get back up, you do not lose the motifs that you painted. It's a little bit weird how you have to paint your motifs, like you're just standing there doing like a long cast painting, but you can do that whenever you want in your rotation, and like, I don't know, the burst just does so much damage. It does so much damage during buffs. It is absolutely the meta pick for casters. It does not have a raise, so I guess it's got that going against it, but like, I don't know, it has so much else that like, it just doesn't matter, right? Like you, like there's a very strong case for bringing, if you need a raise, bring Picto into Red Mage, right? Like, this could easily take a melee spot. Yeah, I don't know. Pictomancer is just insane at the moment. It's super fun to play. I've been loving this job, this entire expansion, and I'm currently gearing it on my alt. I'll be playing this as Savage soon. Not quite there yet on the gear, where I want to swap off of like my best in slot Samurai and almost Monk. I want to play those a bit more. But, you know, I'll be playing this one soon, getting a good feel for it, but like, I don't know, it just does it all, and it does it better than all of the other casters. It is like leagues above the other casters, so it's gotta be S tier. It might be the best job in the game at the minute, and that's objective, in my opinion. So, you know, that's all that really needs to be said about Picto. I mean, you guys know the story with that one. It's just in a wild spot at the minute. I am surprised they didn't nerf it last patch. And if they bring everything up to the standard that Picto has set, we're going to be in a weird spot where everything is just doing some crazy damage. So I think Samurai still out damages it nowadays, but I don't know. It's so easy to do damage on this job that it's wild. Alright, moving on. I don't think anybody's going to question that being an S tier. Next one up is Red Mage, and Red Mage isn't doing much damage at the minute. It's kind of lower on the totem pole. Could maybe use a little buff, but that being said, even so, I'm going to put it in A tier. This job is just so cool. Honestly, like, the fact that it can so freely res really does add a lot. Like, there are so many parties where I'm in Party Finder and, like, we've got a Picto and healers die and we're just like, man, I wish we didn't have that Picto, I wish we had a Red Mage. I think that bumps it up a spot where, like, it's, like, without that, it's probably down in B tier or something, but I don't know. I think Red Mage is still more fun to play than Picto. Personally, I just really love this job. I love, you know, all the spells, the abilities, just the flow of it. I think it is just a super fun job. Brings a lot of utility with its party buff, with magic barrier. Doesn't bring as much as Picto. Doesn't bring anywhere near it. I guess it's getting close with its res, but, you know, when you look at the two, it's like, makes me want to put it down here, but my personal bias brings it up to A tier. I think this job just has so much style. It's one of the most stylish jobs in the game. With its backflips, with its gap closers, with its melee combo, all the spells are super satisfying to hit. And, you know, saving runs on this when you have to res the healers, res the whole party, like, just being able to do that feels so good. Especially this Savage tier, which you don't really need the damage that Picto offers. Like, the Savage tier DPS checks are fairly chill. You know, if you're strictly in Party Finder by yourself, it's kind of a toss-up. Like, do you want that extra damage to help with damage checks if you've got a questionable party? Or if you've got a questionable party, do you want the ability to, like, res through some stuff? Because you can recover a lot of the fights in this raid tier. So I think there's a lot to be said for Red Mage. Like, Summoner can also raise, but not anywhere near as freely as Red Mage. Red Mage can just back-to-back res. Summoner is like, if they've got their Swift cast up, sure. Or if it's like an absolute emergency, like, they can do it, but they're not going to want to. It's pretty free on Red Mage. So, I don't know, Red Mage is just one of my favorite casters. It might be my favorite caster, honestly, over Picto, but I don't know. Picto is just so enticing at the minute. And then next up, last but not least, for the casters, Black Mage. I'm going to throw that in C tier. Black Mage just needs some help. It's not in a great spot. It's doing pretty good damage, actually, but you've just got to work so hard for it. It doesn't really bring a lot to the table. It's kind of like Picto, but just worse in every regard. It's got worse movement. It doesn't have a party buff. It's got worse damage. Worse movement, I already said that. It's like harder to play. It's got a more strict rotation. Yeah, I don't know. It just needs something. For how hard it is to play this job smoothly and effectively, it needs to be doing more damage than Picto, in my opinion. It just needs buffs. Black Mage is still cool. I know a lot of Black Mage players love it or hate it, based on, you know, how it used to play in Endwalker versus how it does now. I'm not going to get into that in this video, but that's not even what's knocking it down on the tier list. I know they took away a lot of Black Mage's flexibility in Dawn Trail. It's a lot more strict than it used to be. It's a lot more simple than it used to be as well. So those two things are not great. When it used to be one of the most complex, most flexible jobs in the game, doing its own thing, now it's just kind of locked into its rotation with no real benefits when you look at some of the other options. Especially when Picto exists, right? Like, it's really just like Pictomancer existing knocks this down a tier. There's just like no reason to play Black Mage when you could be playing Picto. It's sad, but it's the truth. So there's not a whole lot else to say about that one. Black Mage needs some buffs if it's going to keep its current playstyle. So that's it for the casters. We will move on to the Fizz Ranged. Alright, talking about Bard, Machinist, and Dancer. First up, we've got Bard here, I guess. This is kind of the meta pick at the minute for Fizz Ranged. It's doing the most damage. It brings really good buffs and utility. They all bring good utility. Machinist does not have a party buff, but we'll get to Machinist last. But Bard is like the Fizz Ranged to play at the minute. Unfortunately, it's still a Fizz Ranged, so that keeps it out of S tier. I don't feel good about putting a Fizz Ranged in S tier. Fizz Ranged is just not in a great spot as a role, where, you know, people love it, people love these jobs, but I think this role has been neglected lately, where it just needs something else. It needs more urgency to bring a Fizz Ranged outside of just bringing an additional 1% to your party damage and healing for HP for your party bonus, right? Having one of each roll gives you 1%
Oh,
for each
man.
one of them. But, you know, that's like the only reason to bring a Fizz Range at the minute, just to get that extra 1%. If it weren't for that, you would just bring a Picto in place of it, right? Or something for the second range spot. But Bard is super solid. It's really fun. The addition of a couple new abilities added a lot to its burst, where it's not necessarily busier, but you're pressing more buttons, and it feels like you're doing more damage, and it's just a lot more satisfying. Bard has a lot going on though, a lot to keep track of. This job kind of hurts my brain more than many others in the game. You're keeping track of 2 dots and your 3 different songs. They've each got a timer on them. There's a bunch of procs popping up that you've got to press pretty quickly. It's busy. There's a lot going on with Bard. Luckily, it is a Fizz Range, so there's free movement, like freedom of movement that you got to work with that makes up for that. But you really got to be on the toes playing Bard, and you know you are rewarded for it over the other Fizz Range at the minute at least. Again, Bard is the strongest currently, but, you know, I'm going to put it middle of A tier. I think it, you know, this is all arbitrary at this point. Like, I like Bard more than I like Reaper. I think I like Red Mage more than Bard, but, like, Bard is more valuable than Red. It's like, it's really hard to judge. So, the left to right ratings here don't really make a lot of sense, but I'm going to throw it there. Just because Bard is like the meta pick, but it's also a Fizz Range, so like it could be here, right? But like for me personally, ignore that Windows update. That was me. Yeah, I don't know. It's just gonna knock it down a little bit. So next up we've got Dancer, and Dancer. Oh man, this is where it starts getting tough. For me, Dancer's just kind of here. Honestly, it's going to go above Viper. Dancer is just kind of in a weird spot where, again, kind of middle of the road here, just kind of average in B tier. B tier is not bad at all. This is not like a grading system, it's just like B is average, right? Dancer's good, not amazing, it's not bad, it's just, it's a Fizz Range. It's not really my style, so maybe this is a bit of personal preference. You know, it could be maybe bottom of A, but I'm going to put it here. Dancer's got some weird stuff going on with some of the new additions in Dawn Trail. It overcaps stage with Polanos, and everybody complains about that, so that leads me to put it a little lower. I haven't played a whole lot of Dancer myself. I played Bard and Machinist in Savage a little bit, but I haven't really touched this one much. Some of the new additions with I don't even remember the names of the new abilities on this one. Finishing move, maybe? The standard step, like follow-up. Some of that stuff feels pretty cool. Like, it still feels like Dancer. Not much has changed, but like, Dancer's always felt pretty good. Some of the RNG elements of it, I'm not a huge fan of, so I think that bumps it down a little bit, but it can be fun playing with Dance Partner. It's really cool as a melee when you get Dance Partner, so I like that about Dancer. It doesn't really add to your side of things playing the job, but like it's cool to have one sometimes in the party if I'm like playing Samurai or something, right? But outside of that, I don't know. It's not the most exciting job. It's not the worst job by any means. Like, by all means, if you like Dancer's look, if you like the feel, the abilities, play it. It's solid. It's pretty much right behind Bard with damage these days, I think. Bard's still pulling ahead, but, Dancer's not weak. Outside of it being a fizz ranged, I guess. Again, fizz ranged as a whole just needs something. It needs some love. And that's especially the case when we talk about the last one, Machinist. Funnily enough, Machinist is, damage-wise, probably the weakest job in the game, but in my opinion, it's one of the most fun jobs in the game, so it's gonna go in A tier. Hot take on this one. Machinist just needs a buff. It needs more damage because it's a pure damage dealing fizz range. Whereas Dancer and Bard bring like a ton of party buff. With Bard with songs, Dancer with Dance Partner, and both of them just have party buffs. Machinist doesn't have any of that, it's just damage, and unfortunately it doesn't do enough damage at the minute to justify that. So it's in a really weird spot where I love this job, I love all the new additions, it's got some really cool stuff. I don't think, like, in its opener, I don't think you do your GCD combo until, like, 11 GCDs in or something. It's something crazy. Like, you do your entire opener, pressing, like, all your different tools, your chainsaw, your drill, your air anchor, like, everything. You're just, like, spamming all your random stuff. And then you go into, like, your normal GCD combo. Like, after your opener. It's really fun. But, like, it just needs a little buff, and it's in a great spot. Unfortunately, at the minute, it's not. So it gets outclassed by Bard and Dancer, at least in an organized raid group. Thing with Machinist, it's still really good if you have a bad party and you're playing it well. So, like, if I go into Party Finder and I just get a group that's, like, doing very little damage, that wouldn't take advantage of Dance Partner well, or Bard's song buffs well, like, if I'm just, like, not buffing the party well with these jobs, like, Machinist could be a better fit still, even though it's a little lower damage than it should be. So, I think that alone, like, I've been exclusively rating Party Finder, and in a lot of groups, I would rather be on Machinist than Bard. It would be more beneficial to the group for me to be on Machinist in some of these groups that I've seen, if people aren't here, if people, are just struggling with their rotations, whatever it may be, where the party damage is low. Machinist could be a very valid thing. It just needs a bit of love. Hopefully this next patch we see it buff, and it could move up closer to Bard. I think Bard is still just a more solid pick overall, but I don't know. I just love playing this job, and again, the damage checks this raid tier aren't that strict at all, so especially now that we're, 9 weeks into the raid tier, I don't know. Machinist is more viable than ever, especially if you've got some gear. So it just needs a buff, and we're in a really good spot, but I think personally, it is my favorite of the fizz range to play. It's just a blast, no pun intended. And that'll do it for all of the DPS. Let's move on to the supports next. Okay, so let's start with the tanks first, I guess. I had really considered playing tank this raid tier, but, I tried them all out in the extremes before Savage came out, in the normal raids and all that. And I don't know, I was just a little overwhelmed with the role. I think tank kind of suffers the same way that this range does. I think healer's kind of in the same boat as well right now, where I don't know, 14 just feels like it's a DPS game, right? And the other roles that are less focused on just doing damage kind of suffer. I don't think there are a ton of super engaging tank mechanics this raid tier. I've yet to play tank in Savage this tier. I want to do that. I still want to get that experience. I'm working on gearing my tanks a little bit. So that'll happen soon. I'll have a better opinion of that. But I don't know. I don't think any of the tanks are going to be S tier just because they're just flat out not as fun as some of the DPS jobs, in my opinion. Maybe that's a hot take. If you love tanking, if you're just a tank main, then, you know, some of these will be S tier for you, absolutely. But I don't know. I have a hard time comparing tanks to some of these jobs that are up in S tier. Like, the thing with the tanks is that they're very balanced as well. Let's get this one out of the way. Dark Knight is maybe less balanced than the others, at least when it comes to its kit. Dark Knight's doing the most damage of the tanks at the minute. It got slight buffs and is back on top damage-wise, where at the start of the expansion it was hurting a bit. But now it's hurting in other ways because it's just lacking valuable mitigation and tools that the other tanks have. I talked about this in another video. I'm not going to get too into it here. I talked about it in the video where I was going over the jobs that need some help. And Dark Knight's got a lot. It had a long section in that video. It's just not in a great spot at the minute. It needs some buffs. It needs, you know, they stripped out a lot of its rotation in Dawntrail. It feels like a hollow shell of its former self from Endwalker. It's less busy by a lot. It's just slowly getting outclassed in the tanking department. It feels like the squishiest tank with the least tankiness, for lack of a better descriptor, when you compare it to the other tanks. And, like, I don't know, it's still cool, it's still got that big greatsword, but I can't feel good about putting it any higher than C tier. So that's where it's going to live. I hope that this job gets some tweaks to its kit, either whether that's TBN, Dark Mind, Blood Weapon. There's a long laundry list of adjustments that could be made to Dark Knight to improve the feel of it. But it really just comes to like a general feel type of thing that brings this job down at the minute. I think the other tanks just feel better to play and to tank on. Even though, like I said, there's not too much going on with this raid tier tanking specifically. Like I play melee, which has a lot of the same movements as tank, and when I look at what the tanks are doing, like they might be pressing some mitt here and there, they might invuln a tank buster, they might swap occasionally. They grab mustard bomb and C4 or M4. That's about it. I don't know. Like they move the boss in M1 once. But it's really just I don't know. Tank, like I feel like they just gotta do something with some of these support roles, including Fizz range, healer, and tank. That's a topic for another video, I think. But yeah, I don't know. That kind of just drags the rating down of all of these jobs for me personally. So next for the tanks, we've got Gunbreaker. This is my personal favorite tank. This is the one that I would play if I were to play tank. I love this job. I think it's in a great spot. It is the tank to play, in my opinion. And that is going to place it quite high on my list in A tier. I don't know. It's really hard to say like what tank is better, so this is going to get pretty biased from here on out. Like Dark Knight is very clearly at the bottom at the minute, but everything else could be tied, right? Gunbreaker just appeals to me. I think it's cool. I think the whole cartridge system and DPS rotation is the most engaging of all of the tanks gameplay-wise. While it also has really good mitigation, healing, party utility. Yeah, I don't know. It's just a fun tank to play. I think the addition of the new Lionheart combo in the 2-minute burst is incredibly satisfying. I think that's one of the best new additions to job abilities that have been added in Dawntrail. I think that is super fun, flashy, I don't know, this job just ticks all the boxes for me. It's got a pretty strict rotation where you have to press Gnashing Fang, your combo, every 30 seconds. So it's got a 2-minute burst, it's got a 30-second burst, basically, where all of the other tanks are, except for Dark Knight's got a 2-minute burst as well, but Warrior Paladin, they're both basically just 1-minute jobs, which I think is less interesting personally. That's just a personal thing. Maybe you prefer a 1-minute job, but Gunbreaker has the most diverse rotation when it comes to 30 seconds, 1 minute, and 2-minute burst windows. I mean, 30 seconds not really a burst window, it's just like you use your Gnashing Fang combo. Anyway, keep it on cooldown so it doesn't drip out of buffs, but that alone is more engaging than what the other tanks have going on, in my opinion. Paladin has some of that as well, with, you know, every time you do your 3-part combo, you get a Holy Spirit and an Atonement combo. So, Paladin's got some going on in that regard as well, but I don't know, I just find Gunbreaker to be a little bit more satisfying. But Paladin is right up there with it. You know, these two are kind of just tied for me, like flat out. They are very similar jobs. I prefer Gunbreaker personally. I also prefer many of these other jobs to Paladin. I just don't really like the aesthetic of Paladin, the Holy Knight type of thing. It's not really for me, but, you know, this could be up here very easily. Paladin's a very solid job, especially this raid tier. It's the magic caster tank, basically, where, you know, your entire 1-minute burst is able to be performed from range, which is awesome. Not the entire thing, some things are still melee range, but like, you've got your whole range combo. After you do your 3-part GCD combo, you've got ranged attacks as well with Holy Spirit. If you ever just need to cast Holy Spirit, you can for range. And it's super valuable for this raid tier because there's, you know, a lot of downtime that you have to optimize, and Paladin has a much easier time with that than the other tanks. So this raid tier specifically, Paladin is, you know, one of the best picks for the tanks. It might be the best tank currently for this raid tier. It's got really good party utility as well. It's got cover, which can be fun in, you know, the one instance you get to use it. It's got wings, which are just a really cool party hit. Divine Veil is always fun. Putting out big shields on the party, like, just the fact that you can use Clemency if you ever need to heal, or like, you know, if there's emergency situations for like casual content, like you heal yourself or heal party members. If like the healer dies, you can just become the healer on Paladin. It's really interesting. I've been talking about things at a pretty high level when it comes to like high-end content, like MP and rating side of things, but a lot of what I've talked about applies at a more casual level as well. You know, this list would not really change much. Again, you can always play whatever job appeals to you. They're all very valid. You can play any job in the game. Don't let this list stop that. But, you know, Paladin, solid pick. Gunbreaker, very solid pick. Both of these could be right next to each other. Honestly, with this raid tier, objectively, Paladin is probably the top tank that I would put at the top of the list. But, you know, bringing some of my personal opinions in here to keep it interesting, I'm going to put it like that. Again, same tier, this Gunbreaker. And then Warrior. This one's going to be a hot take because everybody loves Warrior. And honestly, this was the last job that I leveled. I just finished this one this week. And my opinion of it has gone up drastically since Endwalker. Dawntrail Warrior is much more fun than Endwalker. It's the same job, pretty much, but some of the new abilities that got added in Dawntrail are just so satisfying. Like, if you thought, what's it called? Why can I not remember? Spellcleave, okay. The most iconic ability. If you thought that was satisfying, some of the new stuff on Warrior is just next level, in my opinion. It feels so good pressing some of these buttons, but all of that being said, like, I think it's just a B tier tank. Again, this is personal preference. It could easily be up here with the others. Damage-wise, it's on the slight lower end for the tanks, I'm pretty sure. It's pretty close to Paladin at the minute, I think. But, I don't know. Warrior's gimmick is that it just has a bunch of healing, self-heals. You can heal the party, you can heal target party members as well, which is super valuable, but I don't know. For me personally, I prefer, you know, the other tanks that just can mitigate more damage up front as opposed to healing reactively. It doesn't really make a difference at the end of the day, but this is really just a personal thing. You know, the big axe doesn't really appeal to me as much as the other jobs do. Warrior's in a great spot though, don't get me wrong, this will always be like such a staple tank. But for me personally, I think it's just kind of middle of the road, kind of falls in line with some of these other jobs. I don't think it's like outstanding, it's just like good old warrior, right? Can't go wrong. But to me, it just doesn't stand out in any way that like Paladin's range does, or Gunbreaker's DPS rotation does. Like these two tanks are just more engaging. Warrior's just simple, to the point, it's a tank, right? Like, and then Dark Knight is just falling behind. It's, Dark Knight, I don't know. I don't know what they're gonna do with it, but my fingers are crossed, and I personally won't be playing it too soon, because it's just kind of unpleasant at the minute. But the other ones, I don't know. You can play any of the tanks. I see Dark Knights in my Savage re-clears all the time. They're doing just fine. We clear the fights. But same goes for any job, even Summoner. Alright, last but not least, we have the healers. And again, like I was saying, a lot of the support jobs feel like they just need something else in this game. Healing is a topic for another video as well. But I don't know, this list here has seemed pretty interesting on healer. I haven't done a whole lot, but there are some mechanics that require some healing. M3 seems kind of spicy, M4's got its moments as well. And I think all the healers are in a pretty good spot. White Mage could maybe use a little help. But yeah, let's just get into these. White Mage, good old standby. I feel like this is just the warrior of healers. Whatever that means. But it's going like right next to warrior. I think these two go hand in hand. They are just like the vanilla ice cream of jobs, right? That's kind of all of these jobs in B tier, right? Like, you can't go wrong, but they're just a little bland. E for bland, in my opinion. The issue with White Mage, like, White Mage is in a decent spot. Like, it's easy to play, it's easy to heal, it can pump out healing. The issue is that Astro exists, and Astro is, I'll, you know, spoil you, it's an S tier. I'll talk about that in a second. But White Mage is just like the good old standby healer. It's very solid, it's easy to heal on, easy to play. There's really not much to say outside of that. The addition of its dash that it got in Dawn Trail is really cool. You can dash around a little bit, helps with movement. You got some instant casts during Presence of Mind, during the 2-minute burst window, which is very nice. So you got a little bit extra movement. You got some extra party shields following up Temperance. So that's nice. I think they're shields. It might be Knit, I forget. One or the other. Pretty sure it's shields. But yeah, I don't know. White Mage didn't really change a whole lot. It's pretty much the same old White Mage. Unfortunately, at the minute, it's doing a bit less damage and has less mitigation than Astro. It also has less movement than Astro, so it's just getting like far outclassed by Astro. Of course, there's no reason you can't play White Mage. White Mage is still solid, it always will be, but if it takes less effort than Astro, but if you put in the extra work, you are greatly rewarded playing Astro. So I think that is a fair gap to have between the two. Like, I don't think White Mage.
Oh no, I didn't mean to do that.
and I do think Astro is in S tier because right now it's just far and above the best healer in the game. And it's just one of those jobs that outclasses everything else in the role to such a degree. Like I said before, it's going to be hard for me to put a support job in S tier, but I think Astro actually does it. The new card system, I feel like, has been very well received by most people. I know a lot of old Astro mains don't really love how it got a little simplified, but
Okay.
for me personally, it's never been better. New Astro feels super smooth. It is just very rewarding to play. It's much more accessible than it used to be. I think the burst windows are much more manageable with, just, they're not too busy now. You really only have to play 2 cards during your 2-minute burst, and that's it. With the addition of a second charge of light speed, you basically have free movement on Astro whenever you need it during your burst or outside of your burst. It's just so good. It's got so many shields, so much mitigation, so much healing. You've gotten more cards than you know what to do with when it comes to your healing and mitigation, shield cards, healing potency cards. A lot of the time you're like, what do I do with all these? And you've got to find places to put them in the different types. So it still has optimization in that regard. It's less damage optimization and more healing optimization, I think, than it used to be. So I don't know. Astro's just pretty interesting. It's in a really good spot. It's doing the most damage of any of the healers with its really strong party buffs. I don't think it's as hard to play as it used to be. I play on controller myself, and I have no problem with all the cards, targeting party members, playing things when I need to. It's pretty straightforward now. I don't think it's that much of a difficulty jump over White Mage. Obviously, it'll take some getting used to. I've been seeing a lot more Astros in Party Finder than I used to, that's for sure. So I think Astros is becoming much more popular these days, at least in high-end rated stuff. White Mage is still obviously a good old standby. There's still a ton of White Mages out there. And again, perfectly valid. It's just kind of middle of the road, the vanilla ice cream of the dealers. I don't know. I love Astro. I love the aesthetic of it. All of the spells are some of the most beautiful abilities in the game. And it's just outclassing like this. It's kind of sad. That's how it goes. Okay, next up we've got Scholar, which is the other meta healer behind Astro, but I can't put this one in S tier. This is going bottom of A tier for me, I think. Astro with chain strat is still super good. It puts out massive shields. It is really solid. Its party buff is, incredibly valuable. With its new level 100 ability, it's actually pretty easy to pump out heals on Scholar now as well. The thing that's keeping this out of S tier or any higher on the list for me personally, I feel like the fairy is still just kind of clunky how it works. A lot of the fairy abilities are kind of sluggish. Needing to move the fairy around, the fairy's range, it's all just kind of slow and cumbersome. If there's a job that I would call clunky, it's probably Scholar. I don't know, a lot of people, you might correct me on this one, but I haven't played a lot of it to be fair, but I don't know, juggling your Aether Flow stacks, is that what it's called? I don't know, whatever. Energy drink? I think that's something. I think it's Aether Flow. Whatever it is, spending those stacks on the gate is just kind of awkward sometimes, and the fairy's awkward, but man, it's still a good feeling. It's still A tier for me, but it's just it feels less smooth to play than any of the other dealers. It's just, maybe it's a skill issue on my part, but I don't know. Still a super solid pick. Its shields and pure healing even can carry. This job is insane with crit spread low. You can really just take 0 damage with the Scholar in the party, which is really cool. Scholar Astro is just such a strong combo. yeah, I don't know. There's not much else to say about Scholar. If you like having a fairy, if you like those abilities, if you like big shields, that's the way to go. But for me personally, I think I actually prefer Mage. That looks about right. I don't think I'd put this any higher, but I think I do prefer Sage to Scholar for my casual healing needs. Again, for like high-end meta reasons, Scholar is up with Astro, like these are the two that you bring. But I don't know, on a personal level, I think Sage is just super fun to play. It's got a bunch of instant casts, Cardia, and the new level 100 ability. That's basically just a party-wide Cardia that, you know, heals when you do damage. It's a really fun mechanic, like just having basically passive regen on all of your damage abilities, at least for the tank or your target Cardia partner, for the whole party when you press your level 100 ability. It's just nice. Its damage rotation is nothing much to speak of, but it's satisfying and rewarding. Having some instant casts in there. Numa is a really cool party-wide heal damage ability. I don't know. I really like playing Sage for casual content as well, like in dungeons and everything. Like I feel like it's just super comfy. I feel like Sage is just a comfy healer. Like I don't know, with all its like free movement, instant casts, it's just chill. I don't know. There's not much else to say about this one. This is kind of where I feel the healers are at. Both shield healers are very solid picks. Astro is probably my top pick, and then you could either go with whatever shield healer you prefer, really. White Mage, still a solid pick. You can even go double shield healer if you want. We've had that in a number of parties, and that's always really solid, especially with the new added healing abilities at level 100 for each of the shield healers. It makes it much more viable. I mean, it always has been. You just had to plan things out a little more carefully. Now you can get away with it even easier. It makes double shield much more viable, much more easy to accommodate as well. So, I don't know. Again, I'm not a huge healer player, but I feel like this is kind of on point with the general consensus. It's kind of a toss-up whether you personally prefer Scholar or Sage. Again, any of these could... I would not put Sage S tier. It's just, you know, kind of in the same boat as White Mage. Like, it just has no damage buff. I don't know. Scholar's buff really kind of sets it apart when you're looking at, like, party value. So, in that sense, it could maybe outshine Sage, but again, I gotta bring some personal bias into it somewhere, so I don't know. A little toss up there. But yeah, I think that will do it. I feel pretty good about this. Let's just do like a little once over here. Is there anything that's out of place? Reaper feels a little weird. I think I prefer Red Mage to Reaper, but if like, I don't know, Reaper is probably just like a better pick. Reaper could be up here. Reaper, like, honestly, Reaper and Review, they're just like neck and neck, so we'll probably do that. It's just my personal bias that like brings it down to like here. Putting up a White Machinist feels really bad, but I don't know. I'll leave it there. That'll be the final version of the tier list. Everything in S and A tier. Machinist excluded. Some of these are kind of weird takes. Red Mage Machinist could probably be lower. These could probably be down here. But I'm going to keep them up here and have a goofy tier list here that you can all make fun of me for in the comments. Again, this is in hopes that Machinist gets buffed next patch and its damage actually makes sense. This is also in a party finder setting that I think Red Mage and Machinist are at this level. If you're playing in an organized group where you can coordinate reses or damage a bit better, these both probably fall down a tier. But I don't know. I've been playing a lot of Party Finder and often wished we had a res, or you know, maybe the Fizz range was carrying a little bit more or something. I don't know. Alright, well, that was fun. Hopefully this tier list gave you some type of insight into the jobs or
Oh man. I hate allergies.
This video was brought to you by Titan Mattress. A few months ago, Titan Mattress supplied me with one of their Titan Plus Lux.
Final Fantasy VII.
Oh man.
Such devastation! This was not my intention!
Such devastation indeed, Wokomai. How could this have happened? What went so wrong with the newest expansion for Final Fantasy XIV that it could have been received so poorly by so many people? Well, hey, that's what we're here today to discuss. But before we get started, remember to slap that subscribe button. We release videos here about as often as Final Fantasy XIV releases patches, but unlike Final Fantasy XIV, we will never disappoint you. Dawn Trail is the newest expansion for the award-winning MMORPG Final Fantasy XIV. It's also the worst expansion story-wise. Dawn Trail sets itself apart from the other expansions in two main aspects. For one, the previous expansions all told one narrative saga. They were different stories unfolding in mostly different areas, or even other parallel universes. But the expansions all shared a common through line, driving towards an inevitable climax. The other main difference is that this time, you aren't the main character. Now, both of these things aren't necessarily good or bad in a vacuum. While sharing traits and goals with other parts of the story can benefit from setups and payoffs, creating a clean break can be just as beneficial. You can set up a new direction for the story, introduce new characters, or explore completely new ideas that may not have fit in the past narrative. Not being the main character isn't really a detriment either. The most interesting part about the Warrior of Light is probably his clothes. Damn, do I look good. But most of the time, the Warrior of Light does take a back seat to others anyway. So we know that neither of these two things are the issues. On a conceptual level, Dawn Trail is totally fun. So where did it go wrong? Look no further than Wokomai, the new face of Final Fantasy XIV and the poster child of my nightmares. Wokomai is the reason this expansion falls on its face. Not the only one, but the biggest one. Now, behold, the graph. This graph simply indicates the number of spoken lines by character. Here's our stalwart allies, Alphino and Allison. They didn't get too many lines. Here's Cryo. I really thought she would have gotten more. Where's Wooklamon? What the hell is this? Wooklamon is carrying this whole expansion on her back. To an early grave? I understand that she's the main character, but this is just way too much. Final Fantasy games, including 14, have always been carried by their strong ensemble cast, even the weaker ones. But here the screen time is totally monopolized by Wooklamon, as if the rest of the party has nothing to say. We have been following Alphino, Alizé, and the other Scions journey for over 10 years. Maybe it's good to get some fresh blood in here. That, I totally agree, but not with the notion that these characters are played out. Dawn Trail presents a perfect opportunity to introduce new, fresh characters, while letting some of the older characters take on new roles as mentors, which we haven't really seen them do before. This could let us see a new side of them, where they need to come to the realization that it's no longer their competence that matters, but that of the person they're trying to mold. But before we dig into the details, what is Dawn Trail even about? Dawn Trail has two very distinct halves to the story. The first half is about the rite of succession in the land of Tuliolon and the quest to find the Golden City. The Dawn servant, Galul Jajan, has 3 children, Zarul Jab, Kona, and Wooklamon. These children are all vying to place Galul Jajan as Dawn servant, along with the sexiest character known to man and fish kind, Bakul Jajan. And all of these candidates now have to compete in a series of trials to determine who is the one fit to rule. As with Dawn Trail itself, this premise is totally fine on a conceptual level, so where's the issue? The issue is that it's so fucking boring! There are 7 trials to complete for each candidate, and each one is more boring than the last. Rebuilding a parade float? Making an artist more comfortable? A cooking contest? Are you serious? Final Fantasy XIV is a rather unique game. The way it can go from story to political intrigue to world-ending trips to comedic escapades, while pretty much always being entertaining, is very recommendable. In this regard, Dawn Trail breaks the mold. By being so unentertaining, it makes navigating the Monarch Station and cancel my subscription look like fucking Disneyland. Each of the trials in Dawn Trail are given to one of the tribes in Tuliolon, which, for context, were united under the current Dawn servant to form one nation. So basically, what we're here to see is the Cliff Notes version of just how interesting this guy was. Not our main character, this guy, who's barely in the story. This decision I can't really wrap my head around for the life of me. Why design your story this way? Imagine playing Assassin's Creed, but instead of going back in time, you just went to a museum. It sucks, but I do see one way it could work, and that's by making the trials a backdrop for the character. Dawn Trail is basically a road trip story, with the ultimate destination being the Golden City. Now, this concept has obviously been done before. I mean, just look at the vacation movies. But the main issue where Dawn Trail fails in these games is just how uninteresting each one of these destinations are. You visit all of these different tribes, learn their history, and explore what purpose? It doesn't really move any sort of main story along besides getting generally closer to the Golden City. Why are there 7 tribes anyway? The number's arbitrary. There could have been 5 or 9, and it wouldn't chase the story at all. There's a basic rule of storytelling: setup and payoff. Don't set something up if you aren't going to do it. Especially don't spend so much time. I've seen porn with better setup and payoff.
I'm gonna put the ultimate joke on my stepsister. Classic dick in a pocket trick.
Bedroom mom's Maytel. And I don't want to be a George R.R. Martin with like, well, what's their tax policy? Because I don't really give a shit about all the news coverage nation. But for the time we spent on learning the culture of the nation, I don't even understand how it all comes together. It just feels like there's a bunch of separate tribes on the continent. Did Galul Jaja break so much time on the road trip, but totally fails to explain some of the basic concepts of how this world works. The tribes of Chiliolo all feel totally innocent. Each of the tribes has their own things going on, but we barely see any interaction between them. For example, the Pelo Pelo are merchants, but we don't see how their interaction with other tribes help develop the nation, or how becoming a mercantile culture has benefited them at all. As a nation, Chiliolo feels less like a cohesive and diverse continent and more like a collection of ghettos. Like I gotta go down to Little Bird Down and get a soup plate of super sour weed. For a road trip story, having boring stuff is basically a death sentence. But maybe this part of the story isn't about the journey or the destination, but instead the development Wook Lamont achieves along the way. A character-driven story is a fantastic angle, and totally
Oh, man.
the growth Wook Lamont experiences is almost nothing. Wook Lamont is an extremely weird character in her conception. Let's start off with analyzing Christopher, because this is the first thing you'll learn about him, and Final Fantasy XIV usually does a pretty good job of it. Look at her. You can tell she's born from a very unconventional dad, so that's good. She really stands out among the other characters in the set, and that's the last compliment I have for her design. Everything else goes like a fight. From her design, you think she's a strong, confident character. She's huge, at least compared to my sword hat. She has broad shoulders and seems to exude strength, lumbering around with her huge axe. But this isn't her actual character at all. Obviously, Wook Lamont is not conventional. She looks like she wants to bang Shadow the Hedgehog, which is totally understandable, but that's not really where I'm going with it. The fact that she's not human omits a huge amount of body language that can be hard to compensate for in a non-human design, and it wasn't compensated for at all. Because everything that I assessed from her actual design is not true about her character. She's weak, she lacks confidence, and is inexperienced. Her character and character design don't line up at all. The reason she's so big is not because she's meant to convey strength, but because her race is big. One thing that's lost on this design is her age as well. I have no idea how old she is or what her level of experience is. With many other characters, she might be looked solid place. She has a bit of a baby face, but this is the first female boss guard we meet in the game, so I don't know whether that's an intentional design choice or if that's just how they look. We don't have any point of reference. And let's talk about class too, because Final Fantasy XIV usually puts a great amount of care into choosing one class in the game. Lise is a pugilist because she's a hothead who tends to think like a fist. Thancred is a thief because of his upbringing on the streets, and later, to show his changing character and role in the story, becomes a gunbreaker when he acts as Reem's protector. Wook Lamont is a warrior. When I think warrior, I think of the class healers hate because it completely devalues them in conflict. The warriors be strong, independent class that don't need no healer. And in the game, they're also portrayed as a bit crazy. Just talking about the beginning of the story, Wook Lamont is not a strong, independent protector. She's weak and honestly rather directionless. I think what would work better for her is starting out as a different class, then moving into warrior when she gains confidence. I propose Blue Mage because one, it originated from this nation, so it feels like a really natural world building for her to deal with, and two, it's a class that has no real direction, but a lot of potential, just like Wook Lamont herself. Divorced from her appearance, what is her character? She is just really, really clueless. Full of her own people, but how to act in general. She is the fish out of water character for this expansion, which doesn't make any sense because he's the fish out of water character. Usually when you have that type of character in a story, it's a stand-in for the audience, so that you can have another character explain things more naturally than just staring at the camera and pontificating like Deadpool or something. But we already have a character who's the fish out of water. That's us, our player character. Why make this person who lived in this nation her entire life and is a daughter to the ruler of the nation so clueless when you already have someone to explain things to? Wook Lamont is set up to be the underdog, which makes complete sense, but she's far too lacking in every category to be a believable hero. She lacks the strength of Zorulja, the brains of Kona,
Oh, man.
but it isn't just that she lacks these things, but she is far, far away in these categories. She isn't just not strong, she's really weak. She isn't just not smart, she's pretty friggin' dumb. And physically, she's just not attractive enough. I mean, look who she's competing against. There was nothing she could do. So what does she? Well, she's literally the Ralph Wiggum of the Dawn serving contest.
I pick Holiday. Right behind you.
I pick Mamoru.
I pick Alfredo.
My strength is yours.
Other Mamoru.
I pick the warrior of light.
I pick Wilhelm.
Yeah, she just asked the strongest individual on the planet and his 300 IQ friends to fight on her team. Besides that, I guess her talent is her people skills, which is unique among the group of Dawn serving trial goers, but it's so poorly written that it's unbelievable. As in, I don't believe in her abilities, and I can't believe how badly it is. Wuklamat's arc is a strange one, because I can only think of the one thing that she improves on, and that's her confidence. Wuklamat doesn't seem to have any real character flaws, and has so much potential that over the course of the Dawn serving trial, which must have only taken about a week in universe, she is able to remedy any supposed flaw she might have originally had. I mean, the only negative quality she seems to have is that it's seasick easily. And like, come the fuck home, that's not. That's a stupid anime. What Wuklamat seems to mostly lack is experience and knowledge. And while there's nothing to do about not having any experience, what was stopping her from learning about the people of Tuliolo before this point? You're telling me that the daughter of the leader of the nation doesn't know anything about the struggles of the people of the nation? She hardly knows anything about them in general. I'm surprised she knows what they're friggin' called. She also seems to be a natural at talking with people. So why does she have literally no friends besides her nursemaid, someone who gets paid to take care of her? Wuklamat doesn't feel like a natural part of this world. It feels like she's some sort of weird creature out pouring out past the light. There's a limit to believability, especially for someone who is so talented that over the course of only a few days, she develops into an amazing leader and grows immensely in strength. For example, there's a part in the story early on where she fights the cool judge and her attacks are completely ineffective. But only a few days later, she's able to defeat him no problem. And I don't really know where this growth came from. Did it come from just a couple of dungeons and fighting a giant bird? Wuklamat's growth feels really strange because it isn't spurred on from anything besides her own potential and the Dawn serving job. I mentioned earlier how it would be interesting to have the Scions work in a mentorship role, but they don't do that at all. In fact, the Scions that travel with Wuklamat barely do anything. I would understand if Wuklamat's growth was spurred on by her relationship with these characters, and that would be how she developed something to be strength and leadership skills. But from the onset of the expansion, she acts as the leader of the group, and never really stops to bring the other characters out.
Oh, man.
Arrogance or character flaw, but because she doesn't need to. For example, one of the trials is to solve the famine in one of the tribes. Now, Wuklamat's solution is to throw a festival because the people seem unhappy, and that's going to solve the famine. Now, you would think that one of the other characters would say something like, "Hey, retard, that's stupid. What are you talking about?" But all these characters go along with her extremely naive plan, which is bizarre because everyone around her should know that she's doing stagnant evil. An issue which each one of them has seen it multiple times. I tried to tell them myself, but I guess my mic wasn't working. You guys all know this. But it just so happens that the festival flow they find is actually a piece of feature that will plan. So Wuklamat's totally nonsensical plan just happens to work. What does this tell about her as a character? She's lucky. What does this teach her as a character? It teaches her that her naivete is going to be rewarded, even though at many points in Final Fantasy XIV, this has shown to be an extremely negative character trait, such as when Alphino forms the Crystal Graves in A Realm Reborn and is betrayed from within because he was sloppy. You would think he would have something to say, but no, he just This character trait never comes back to bite her either, which doesn't make a lick of sense to me. Just more setup, no payoff. Wuklamat never faces any direct challenges she can't overcome with her own skills. Sure, there are instances like the time when she got kidnapped and had her keystone stolen, but there's never any straightforward challenge where she fails. Besides that one fight with Pakul Jaja, there is never a time where Wuklamat needs to tackle a challenge head-on, puts her full strength forward, and comes up one. It really makes Wuklamat an uninteresting character. It doesn't really feel like she changes much, which is a problem, because as we've established, the character work really needs to pull this part.
Well, here we are, you bastards. Another Dawntrail patch has dropped. And we only had to wait 4.5 damn months. I'm Sorry, Square, that you think you're worth the wait, but I'll save the snide comments for later. We're here to see
Oh, man.
whether or not it's worth our time anymore. Because, let's be honest, things haven't been inspiring to put up lately. I've spoken to death about 7.0, leave multiple videos on the subject if you're interested. In 7.1, what the hell else is there to say? It was by and large boring, pointless, and uneventful, only the finale set up any real stakes, while the rest was mediocre filler. The characters we hated still suck ass. The characters we had hoped for, now they suck ass too. And all we had at the end was another dead, now revived character to note for gasp and awe reactions. All caught up? Fantabulous, let's get started. Let this be a spoiler warning for Dawn Trail 7.2, and Dawn Trail in general. And to keep this from dragging on for too long, I'm only going to be speaking up in this queue. I'll speak about the Arcadian raids in a different video. So my skepticism was peaked when I started the patch, for good reason, and to get it out of the way, once more, Wukuma is shoved in our faces immediately. And once more, I rolled my eyes so hard I gave myself a CAT scan.
That doesn't seem physically possible.
And just like 7.1, Wook takes a back seat more often than not. She is again imposing. And yes, I was laughing like a cartoon villain every time she left us. But back to the story. We have dead people to talk to. Oh yes, as if the last scene from 7.1 wasn't conspicuous enough. Steen is back. But a different Steen. A different Steen. Yeah, that didn't get old at all. We have 3 separate lowlies. Even the NPCs were quick to distinguish them from one another, so kudos to the writers for sidestepping that impending migraine. So, this had been one of the larger concerns of mine. The series has a habit of bringing dead people back. It's an overused trope at this point. Thankfully, I kind of like how they went about this, because this gal is the original Queen Sweet. The one we dealt with in 7.0 was a copy of her, but this one is the real deal. Kept in stasis with them living memory for over 400 years. Alright, this is fine, I'm okay with this. It's a better direction than being possessed by Asians, which is what some of us suspected would be the case. Though granted, this raised a few more questions, such as, why was she kept alive, when it feels like a security risk for the ones controlling the Steam copies? We also learned her tiara is a reliquary for Steam's memory, so the original wouldn't be needed. And keeping her in living memory of all places, as compared to more secure locations within Alexandria where she could be controlled and not a liability. Spider-Man memery going on. Anyways, once the original gets a speed run on the disastrous Dawn Trail storyline, and her reactions were rather in line with my own, by the way, we do some annoying ass sightseeing. Annoying because we already did this in 7.0. I get it that there's a new member for this side venture, but making us repeat boring ass quest runs, regardless of the context, is still making us repeat boring ass quest runs. It was just short-lived enough to prevent me from breaking my track record for snapping my keyboard in a manic fit of rage. Eventually, we run into... screw it, this guy's name isn't worth remembering. Holy shit, you're real cliche. But yeah, we help this guy deliver belongings of deceased Alexandrians to their loved ones. It's an opportunity to get a feel for how people are coping in a more intimate way as compared to dealing with groups of them at a time. Surprisingly, most of those we talk to are skeptical about becoming endless. For different reasons, the general consensus, however, shows that there's more of a schism in what the fake Steam's trying to sell than what was originally implied at the end of 7.1. It's an appreciated addition to the people's character, although it has its own inconsistencies.
Round and round we go.
Multiple times throughout 7.2, they stress the fear Alexandrians have of dying and staying gone, losing everything they have and will ever have. It's a pivotal point near the end of this patch and connects back to whatever the main bad guy's planning. The problem is, this same patch shows us just as many people, perhaps more, rejecting the idea of this simulated utopia being sold to them. Groups of people are holding differing opinions on the matter. That on its own is fine. Some complexity is good, but we only have 3 more patches in this expansion. They're only a few hours apiece. That's not a lot of time to explore this nuance. I hope that they do, to show people's resilience rather than just their fears, but 7.2 did not do this so much as throw a mixture of bravery and fear at random intervals, all while pushing this idea of making people so afraid that they'll relinquish anything for the illusion of safety. It's far too early to push a narrative as contentious as this, and it's not the only time Dawn Trail has forced complicated matters into absurdly short time periods. I hope they don't bomb this. There is potential here. Things do get interesting again really quick when we encounter Imposter Steen on the streets, and her demeanor is only, I'd say, 75%, hey kid, want some candy? Not creepy at all. Knowing that this whole situation is sus, we opt to follow her, without a plan, or backup, or phoning the others in case something bad happens. sweet. Mothering hell. Something bad happened. Surely, an experienced adventurer such as us could not have possibly foreseen such dishonorable tactics. Douchebag Fiend and her collaborators staged an ambush. A mighty flashy one at that. You know, I recall during the Solution 9 assaults, we were incapacitated by a mutant dog that farted lightning. We had to be saved. Us, the killer of despair and Zodiac, by lightning farts. Now the most powerful attack that people run in this place can muster only knock us down for a minute or two. This may seem trivial, even petty. It's not like we've never had the wind knocked out of us before. I just find it jarring when and where this game decides to give us a handicap and when it doesn't. But that, I suppose, is nothing new.
Our demand is simple. Surrender the key. Refusal will necessitate consequences.
Oh yes, they want the key. The key the other fake scheme gave us. The fake scheme we learned this terrible Dr. House cosplayer had created and used to fulfill his goals. Big Steam boasts that that version had played her role as intended. And this is the first tangent we need to have. This boy wants the key to acquire vast amounts of ether from the other worlds. Alright, so the first good queen, the one we dealt with in 7.0, was meant to acquire the key and use it to try and access these worlds, knowing her desires were unattainable to save the endless. That she would fail, and now the one pulling the strings wants it back, even though they had it in their possession. Not with fake skin. Even before that, with Zoroastrian, he used the key to build his army, way too long. And now we know that this Calix guy running the show has full unrestricted access to all the Solution 9 systems. He even usurped local Illusion's authority as king to take control of the security drones. And Zorol's plans didn't unfold overnight. It was 30 years within Alexandria before he launched his attack. Alex had everything needed to claim the king ages ago. So why didn't he? He's been around since the beginning of the Alexandria we know. I don't believe for a second that he couldn't have taken control of the system before that. Maybe he was bugging Zorol. Back then it was anonymous out there with both of his dead yet. But there's other issues beyond that. Why would they do that? They didn't use Zorol once he delivered the key to their realm. And his ambitions meant nothing to Alex. If the goal was to acquire souls and ether, the key would grant access to far more valuable sources than what Zorol had ever denied. Not to mention that invasion is still the plan. These attack bombs of yours are mighty useless. They were beaten so bad when they set the soul on too low. I felt sorry for his mechanical schmucks. And later on in this very path, we see him get cracked again. But this is the second latest robot army I've ever seen. Red vs. Blue had it first. But that was deliberate. I continue to have little hope in Alexandria's military ambitions. Now, if the key lets him sample the necessary energy without direct conflict, then the original crisis still stands. Why attack the wall? It served no purpose. Alex speaks of enhancing humanity for evolutionary progress, which isn't at all. I have a theory that the key goes a little hidden perspective. Either way, getting us slowly involved seemed counterproductive towards his goals, especially with the key technically in possession. And getting another nation involved is bound to draw opposition to your plans. We have the key page. The key you already had in your domain and lost for no reason. Genuinely, there is no reason any of us will be in this situation. No reason to attack the source, no reason to keep Zorol around once he was in Alexandria. The first fake scheme could have enacted her plans whenever. She didn't even need us to kill Zorol. Alex was in control the whole time. Little speculation. What if this felt like the writer's effort to better rationalize what the first fake scheme's issues were? Her contradictory behavior, constantly making things work for herself in Alexandria. Alex obviously doesn't care what gets out of the news of his experiments. So this indifference would conceivably prevent her from acting rational, especially since her desires were bound to fail. But in turn, it created this weak and criticized plot hole. The past did nothing to address. The issue never has slipped from their grasp. The prick used even 1% of his brain capacity. Now they must deal with the most plot-armored character in the multiverse. The prize they seek is outside their domain. You have complicated your own endeavors and have no affiliation toward your life. This is precisely what the first robot scheme is doing that made me anger so much. Look, I like Alex as a villain, but his story so far is falling into some of the same traps that we've been dealing with. So, our friends have driven me back in the universe into the very core of Alexandria. And of course, we suspected a trap. The pathway was far too obvious. And of course, we proceed anyways, without additional backup or contingency plan, without consulting our very savvy group of allies. Okay, Tangent number 2. Why are we acting so incompetent? We followed after them once like a brain-dead lemming over a cliffside, and it ended terribly. Now, I can forgive the first time, but now we're doing so again. And with what reassurance? That Shell can do something while she monitors us from Oblivion's hideout? Pretty damn thing, fellas. The science was spread out over Solution 9. We easily could have gathered them to act as a second party to follow after us. Just in case. That alone would have shown some initiative on our part. Dawntrail continues to deny the Scions executing the detention, and it's taxing what little patience I have left. It's obvious now that the new characters they created aren't appealing to the player base. People don't like Rook. Her considerable downgrades in 7.0 speaks volumes. They butchered Corner last time. I'm alright not seeing it. There's nobody left besides Real Steve, who is quite a sweetheart, don't get me wrong, but we've dealt with the burden of her already. The differences aside, this is like returning from an earlier city filing a playthrough and starting a new build. Typically reasonable, but the similarities aren't lost on us. I'm just saying. But no, instead of an intelligent strategy, we drop big first into enemy territory and just shrug at the notion that another trick might be up their sleeve. And after we enter the castle,
God? What happened? Oh, it seems our guest brought company.
oh sweet holy hell, they had another trick up their sleeve. They got frickin' good. Thank God we're morons, but those might have had to work in this particular outcome. Seriously, why even have a cast of brainiac characters?
Download dailies.
Now tell me if you've heard this one. The bad guy wants to throw robots at us against our power mode. How original. But sure, let's entertain the guy who clearly grounds kittens in his spare time. No worries.
You are free to use anything at your disposal. The better you fight, the more accurate my data.
This blood looks familiar. Oh, it's Beatrix from Final Fantasy IX. Kinda. This film mob was obviously inspired by her, and the music during the trial too was FF9 inspired. But that's really it. She doesn't even have an attack that drops her HP to 1. An easy reference ignored for some reason, or perhaps no reason at all. I wouldn't put it past her. My video on 14's declining numbers has talked about this issue. The writers using cheap nostalgia to bait players into loving their bare minimum efforts. Dawntrail is the worst offender by far. This trial wasn't any better. The fight was fine. Not particularly hard. I consider it a break in the game's successful line of typical dungeons and trials. Not every fight needs to be so tedious that you're ripping hair out of your skull. In terms of the nostalgia bait, however, this just felt shallow. I'm sure some people appreciate it. That's cool. But the half-assed references are getting tiresome. Commit or quit. Make the Selenia character a descendant of Beatrix. Or why not just make her Beatrix? Same as Steam. She could be a descendant of a famous queen named Dagger. People would go nuts over that piece of lore. All I'm saying is, commit to nostalgia a little bit, or make something new to stand on its own. Because you just keep going back and forth with it. Alright, tangent number 3 done. Once we kill the Finbot, the bad guys give us more exposition. Of course, we ace Alex's test, and he states that our performance is concerning. Oh, if you only knew. Another small problem here, if getting rid of us is so important, why not do that little lightning attack again? There was plenty of prep time, and you don't have to kill us, just incapacitate us. Then the nostalgia block can turn us into kebab. You win, nicely done. But they don't. There's no more cheat tricks. Even though, based on Calix's impression of us, it wouldn't be out of the question. How convenient that the tricky shites don't use trickery again on us. Separated from our allies, it would be rather easy. So now our villains are acting kind of dumb. Just to make sure the rest of the plot can happen. Look, if it were just Fiend involved, I might buy the argument he's using her for some yet unknown purpose. But the Warrior of Light, we're an obstacle. Not one that stops out for us is foolish, to put it delicately. The level of people not doing things just because it's inconvenient for the story is starting to get out of hand here. After some cheap mockery, the fake Fiend seems to disappear, and we get the impression we won't be seeing another copy again. Probably for the best. The need of losing traction already. With a few ominous comments from our adversary, Calix leaves as well, but also leaves a tiara for us to collect. As mentioned, it apparently possesses the memories of the Fiend from 7.0. The real one opts to take it, hoping to learn something down the road. Then the others finally catch up before we decide to head on out, but not before we take another look around, steal some old books cluttered up around the joint. I'm a little skeptical why Calix would let us rummage around his supposedly secure operating center like this. Either there's nothing of value or he has other machinations at work. Like I said, there's just not enough to speculate over, which is another part of the problem.
Round and round we go.
Some people may try to argue that this story is meant to develop over the next few patches. Answers will be revealed further down the road. We just need to be patient. And I'm sorry, but that's not something I'm willing to give right now. They burned through whatever good faith there was after 7.0 hit, and 7.1 did nothing to help. With only 3 more patches to wrap things up, I don't have much faith that they'll pull it off. And while there are improvements this patch, there are still flaws in the story and the writing, which is what the video title means by moderate step forward. 14 getting its mojo back is going to take more than a single content patch to resolve. None of us should expect a miracle. Patience is something the game must earn right now. If whatever happens is decent, if the issues are resolved and start making sense again, I will happily admit it. But only after the fact. I'm just not willing to give my hopes up just yet. After we return topside, the story covers a small but pivotal detail that's been bugging me for a while. The Levin sickness. People poisoned by an overabundance of light and ether. Not unlike those poisoned by light on the first. Alice uses her underlings to treat a frail child with the disease, and to great effect. Our 1,000 subscriber special video had a comment to discuss this issue, so I will give some credit to them addressing this little conundrum by showing us using our skills developed over the years to make a difference here. Like I said, it's a small detail, but it was nice all the same. Progress is progress, and I'll take it. Now at last, we near the climax. Do we all remember the first assault on Tuliolo? I do. I was so damn bored with all the prep and Shaloni, I nearly rage quit the game. Seeing something so perfect take place definitely got the blood flowing. I mean, they launched it again afterwards. But here and now, we get a trip down memory lane. The security drones start attacking residents. Machines malfunction, crashing.
I think I might go to bed early tonight.
Get more for your business with Microsoft 365. Stay connected with customers and securely share files with anyone. Stand out in your market with branded materials and custom email domains. Get more done with Microsoft 365.
Introducing the all-new Passport Tracer. Fully redesigned with available trail work to help you conquer tough terrain. Our most capable hunter yet.
Shoot! I need to wake up.
specific level ranges. First off, if you're looking for a way to level up your first job really fast, meaning you have yet to complete the main scenario quest, do that first. This quest line is admittedly not always the best for XP, however, it is mandatory to complete it to access all the high level content you would want to be high level for in the first place. And, for the most part, the quest line gives you all the XP you will need to reach max level, and then some. With that out of the way, let's start with the various XP bonus options in the game. First, Rested XP, which gives you an additional 50% XP from defeating enemies. This will be a recurring thing. Gathering and crafting items with non-combat jobs also spends Rested XP, so take note of this if you want to be sure the Rested XP goes to combat jobs. Your accumulated Rested XP is shown as a darker yellow part of your XP bar, and if you have enough for the rest of the levels, it will instead turn blue. You accumulate Rested XP by hanging out in and being locked out in sanctuaries, which are indicated by this moon icon next to your XP bar. Rested XP only boosts XP from defeating enemies, which means in a dungeon, it will boost the XP gain from killing the boss, but not the XP gain from, say, a leveling roulette bonus.
We are getting
This
owned.
is crucially impactful if your leveling process exclusively or in heavy majority involves doing daily roulettes, for example. The second option is Heat of Battle and Squadron Battle Manuals. Heat of Battle is a box provided by a free company, and Squadron Battle Manuals can be collected through your Grand Company Squadron. Heat of Battle grants 5 to 15% additional XP gained from defeating enemies, depending on which grade of Heat of Battle it is. The manual instead goes straight to 15%. If you're affected by both Heat of Battle and the Battle Manual, then you will only get the benefit of one of them. The stronger one, should you have a weaker Heat of Battle. That is to say, they do not stack, even if you can have both boss actions at the same time. The third option is the Well-Fed bonus. All food bots in the game give an additional 3% XP from defeating enemies. As such, I highly recommend having a food bot at all times while leveling. This can be done simply by going to a food vendor in a main city and buying a big bag of food. The cheapest and most common option is boiled eggs, so simply buy a bunch of that and keep the bot running. The fourth option is the Armory bonus. If you already have a job that is a higher level than the job you're currently playing, then it benefits from the Armory bonus, which grants an additional 100% more XP from defeating enemies if your current job is below level 90, 50% if it is level 90 or above. Note that this bonus only applies if you have a higher level job, so it is more effective to level one job ahead of the rest, over doing some sort of frog-leaping method.
Our investment in the latest AI innovations can enable our auditors to reach a far more state of flow. With AI handling mechanical activity, we can tackle more complex activities using our understanding of the client's business and industry. While technology has always been evolving alongside us, it's our thoughtful integration of technology and people that determines what we can achieve.
The fifth option are the various XP bonus granting equipment. Among these, we have the Friendship Circuit from the Recruit a Friend campaign. It grants 20% additional XP from defeating enemies while at or below level 25. The brand new ring, which is granted for simply completing a Hall of the Novice course with a roll. This ring grants 30% additional XP from defeating enemies while at or below level 30. The Bosa earring, awarded for appraising 1,000 forgotten fragments in Bosa, which sounds more daunting than it is, grants 10% additional XP from defeating enemies up to and including level 80.
And finally, there are various pre-order bonus items that give an XP bonus up to a level range. The most recent of which is Azena's Earrings, which grants 30% additional XP from defeating enemies when at or below level 90. A notable detail about all these sorts of items is that if you are synced down to an appropriate level range for any of these items, they will work and grant you the bonus still, even if your actual level is out of reach. A side point to this is that the XP bonuses apply specifically to mob kills or boss kills in the case of duties, and the boss in Tamtara does not give very much XP to a level 90, relatively speaking, even if it is boosted by 30%. The final and sixth option is the Road to 90 bonus, which is granted when making a new character on a preferred world, or sometimes when you move a character to one. This buff stays around for 90 days or until the world stops being preferred, whichever comes last. This buff doubles all XP gains while a job is below level 90. Notably, this doubling happens after all other bonuses are applied. If you don't already have this effect active when starting your leveling grind, don't worry about it. Finally, before starting your grind, be sure to pick up a Wondrous Tales book from Chloe Aniapo in Idleshire, unlocked through the unctuous adventure near the Aetheryte. Filling this book by doing 9 tasks on the list and returning it gives you exactly half a level's worth of XP for your current job. You can pick up one such book each week and you have 2 weeks completed. I have a separate video that goes in more detail on this book if you are interested. Link in the description. Now, with all the various XP boosting options in order, let's get on to the actual leveling strategy. The plan is to do daily roulettes, while, if the queue takes a while, fill with time-efficient and valuable open-world XP options. For tanks and healers, these open-world options will likely be a lot less significant due to much shorter queues. Obviously, if you have the time and plan to do all of the roulettes in a given day, the order is completely inconsequential. However, if you only have time for a few, then it makes sense to know which ones are the most effective use of your time. For that, leveling roulette is by far the best one. After that comes frontline. However, as it is PvP, it is understandable that some players would rather skip it. Just keep in mind that the daily gives a lot of XP to the job you enter the duty as, meaning this specific daily can be used to level a job without even playing it. After that comes Trials Roulette, which at times can be significantly faster than leveling, making the XP gained from it comparatively
Oh, man.
sometimes the better choice if you are in a bit of a hurry. After that comes Main Scenario Roulette. This one takes quite a while, but does award you reasonably for it, although it may be easy to stomach this one if you have something else going on another month, for example, like watching this video. And next comes Alliance Raid, which is another one that can be problematic if you're not sure how much time you have, as the clear time can vary greatly depending on whether you get Crystal Tower or something else. The XP should scale to compensate you reasonably for your time. After that comes Normal Raids, which is, for the most part, directly comparable to Trials, just with a lesser XP reward. Then comes High Level Dungeons, which is where we reach an XP amount where you might be better served skipping it, but some players do enjoy this one regardless of that. Finally, don't bother doing guild tests at all, unless you have yet to complete the challenge log for 3 guild tests. Without this challenge, the XP is simply not worth it. Now, if you make it through the entire list of roulettes and still have more time and energy to level some more in that day, instead queue for the highest level dungeon you can, but never end of expansion dungeons, meaning those you would find in the high level dungeons roulette. This means, for example, that if you are level 70, you should queue for Castra Mabania and not something like the Burn. A bonus tip here is that if you anticipate that you would land at a level that is supposed to of 10 with no more daily roulettes to use to push past it, it might be beneficial to save some of the more concentrated XP gain daily for that, like leveling and skew roulette. With that said, the highest level leveling dungeon you can access will typically always be the best dungeon that awards you the most experience from defeating enemies. So while these queues go on, sometimes you have extra time to do something else before the duty pops, especially if you're a DPS. To make the most of this time, I have a list of other effective XP sources you can make use of while still in queue. This can also be helpful if you simply don't have time for a duty or run out of roulettes and whatnot. The first one of these is Allied Society daily quests. Each Allied Society has different requirements to unlock, but typically it is simply down to doing a specific set of quests that lead up to them. The easiest approach is to simply look up the specific one you want to unlock. I do have a slightly dated guide on this subject if you are interested, link in the description. As you are only allowed to do 12 of these quests in a day, you can typically, at most, help 2 to 4 societies per day depending on certain factors. Notably, the A Realm Reborn societies give atrociously bad XP, if any, and should generally always be skipped in favor of others. For all other expansions, the experience reward scales with your level up to the end of the given expansion, meaning the Heavensworn societies peak their XP gains at level 60, for example. I would recommend helping the 2 to 4 highest level societies you can access with a job or jobs you're leveling. Optimally, use a job closer to a given expansion's level range to make the most of the XP. As of the making of this guide, there is yet to be released a combat society for Dawntrail. However, when it releases, it should be your first stop with any job at level 90 or above. For level 80 and above, Endwalker's Archistada are optimal. For 70 and above, Shadowbringer's Pixies are your only option. For 60 and above, Stormgod offers both the Kojin and Ananta. And for level 50 and above, Heavensworn has both the Vanavanu and the Vast. For somewhat relative comparison to EXP games, doing the 3 Archisada dailies as a level 90 plus job grants approximately the same XP as doing the high-level dungeons for him. The second option is to do daily hunts, not to be confused with the randomly spawning hunt marks in the world. To unlock this, you need second lieutenant in your grand company, and then an NPC will grant you access. You also need this already unlocked to access the hunt in any expansion. Furthermore, you have to unlock all of these in order. It is also worth noting that, once again, the other Reborn marks give atrociously bad XP and should be skipped. All elite marks also give basically no XP. That said, to unlock the hunting boar, in Heavensworn it is unlocked and access near the Forgotten Knight in Edgar. In Stormblood it is near the Geocaching of Felby in Togani. In Shadowbringers it is near the Seminole Rookery, however, the quest is found near the inn. In Endwalker it is unlocked near the Etherite, but is accessed at the Scholar's Harbor. And in Dawntrail it is unlocked slightly west of the Bayside Valley Marketplace in Trisholo, and is accessed near the market board at the same Ether Shard. On a given day, simply grab every single mark built for a given expansion and get to work clearing each one. If you don't want to play around with discovering where each enemy is found yourself, or plan kill routes, there are websites that generate these for you. I will put a link to one such website in the description. Once again, you will make the most of the XP if you use a job in the appropriate level range of each expansion. However, unlike Society quests, there's nothing preventing you from using a severely under-leveled job to complete these marks if you're capable of defeating them. I believe you can even bring a friend to defeat them for you, but I never bothered to try this myself. If you still have more energy to go after doing all of this, my third suggestion for filler content between queues is Fates. Simply make your way to a level-appropriate zone and start doing Fates. Do note, you have to be in the zone when a fate resolves to receive the reward, so if your queue pops, you may lose out on that. But there's not much you can do about that beyond the very slow to click accept on the queue. This can be particularly handy if you haven't completed the shared fate feature of something from Vital or Gemstone, relevant for the Shadowbringers and others. You have to clear quite a lot of fates in a given zone to complete the shared fates for that zone. So
Don't worry about the driving with pods. Pack at your pace, store your things until you're ready. Then we deliver
Buddy, don't start.
across town or across the country. Pods, your personal moving and storage.
Texas was feeling so stuck. Now Texas is having a TurboTax expert who does your taxes from start to finish. Are you checking anytime? And get the most money back on your time. Now this is taxes.
to recap the leveling strategy, activate all the XP boosting options you have. Go Go through your duty roulettes, leveling, frontline, trials, MSQ, alliance raid, normal raids, maybe high level dungeons, and 3 guild tests if you haven't cleared the challenge logs this week. Then spam the highest level dungeon you have available. To pass the time between Q pops, do your allied society quests, hunt marks, and then level appropriate fates. Note, there are also challenge logs for fates on
I'll put you back on the couch.
Now, if you're leveling
Everybody.
below level 50, some of these options will be out of reach. In that case, make use of leveling roulette, frontline, and maybe 3 guild tests. You can even do 10 for the other challenge logs, and then queue for the highest level dungeon you can. While doing so, do your actual hunt log for your job in question, if it has one. Otherwise, you can also do level appropriate fates. Usually, the dungeons will level you up rather quick. With that,
Oh, man.
I'll highlight a few alternative leveling options that are somewhat popular. The first one is to level using your squadron. If you have a good team set up for this, these can level you faster than actual groups up to level 60, if not easily past that. The optimal setup, I believe, is a Marauder tank if you're not a tank, a Conjurer healer if you're not a healer, and 1 or 2 Arcanists as DPS. For maximum speed, all of the squadron members should be set to offensive battle tactics, and of course, if you can, maxed out to 5 hits. If you don't have squadrons available, I guess duty support could be an alternative, but I guarantee that these are not and will not be faster than running with actual players or squadrons. The second strategy involves deep dungeons. However, you may need a pre-made for this. Palace of the Dead is good for level 1 to 60. Heaven on High is better for level 61 to 80. Eureka Authors is probably best for 81 to 90 and may also be decent up to level 100. However, for maximum XP efficiency, you should aim to reach the checkpoint floors for these deep dungeons, meaning 51 for Palace of the Dead and 21 for the other 2. That way, you can spam this set of floors for maximum XP per hour. If you don't have a pre-made, this may be outright necessary to actually get the queues to pop at all. Sometimes the queues can also just be really long in general, which can make this strategy less effective. The third strategy is specifically for level 71 and above and involves simply doing skirmishes and critical engagements will accumulate lots of XP for you, with it being more effective the more players are stampeding around the area. This includes both Boja and Zadnar, although Boja may be more effective for raw XP gains. This strategy is very effective up to level 80, but is somewhat competitive up to level 90 as well, so it should not surprise me if the XP is still kind of okay all the way to 100. It can get very monotonous though. By the way, while the Bojan earring gives a haste bonus that helps kill things faster in Boja, the 10% XP bonus does not work on any XP sources in Boja, as that does not involve gaining XP from defeating enemies. The fourth and final weird strategy for level 90 and above is to specifically run the Endwalker Alliance raid Aglaya. The XP gains from such a run, especially with the same as earrings, is competitive with doing the highest level dungeon you have access to, until you hit level 97, where that dungeon happens to give more XP. Once again, the effectiveness of this strategy can be weaker if there are not many actively using it themselves, as then the queue gets really long. Euphrosyne and Thalea can also be used for this strategy, but Aglaya is the most effective of the 3. With all of that, it is crucially important to remember, when leveling, to level with a strategy that you enjoy. It needs to be fun. Otherwise, you will probably burn out and lose interest. What I mean by this is that it does not matter which one of these strategies is the most effective if that particular strategy is dreadfully boring for you. Some players enjoy leveling up to 50 using lave quests, for example, and some enjoy leveling with just fates for the large majority of their journey. So, focus on things you enjoy. Similarly, skip daily roulettes you don't like. If you don't enjoy PvP, skip frontline. If MSQ roulette puts you to sleep, then don't do it. Just because it might get you to the end slightly faster, you might not reach the end that way. With that said, if you have some leveling tips and tricks of your own to share, or maybe some wacky way you find fun to use for leveling, I would love to hear about them in the comments. Now, that is all for this video. Thank you so much for watching. If you would like to support me and my channel more directly, you can become a member like these wonderful people here. You can also alternatively support me through Ko-Fi, link in the description. You can also support the channel by letting the YouTube YouTube algorithm know by liking the video, leaving a comment, subscribing, sharing, and hitting the bell to get notified when next I post a video. Fun fact, originally allied societies were called Beast Tribes and Beast Tribe Quests. Then, around Endwalker, this was considered a bit mean considering the friendship we developed with the races, so it was renamed to simply Tribes and Tribal Quests. This was apparently also considered too mean considering the races, and with Dawn Trail was further renamed to Allied Societies and Allied Society Quests.
On April 25th, the accountant is
Man, I got heartburn.
but this time he brought his brother.
It's been a minute. Do you like puzzles? We do the talking. Guess I hit him harder than I thought.
The accountant 2, rated R.
Febreze Plug stays first day fresh for 50 days and comes in over 30 delightful scents.
La 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 la. Buddy, you're really getting on my nerves.
Up for an adventure?
Always.
What is this place? You made it. Is that good?
You were the last to see the president alive.
Welcome to the pit.
Line him up now!
A crew of pirates is coming.
That was cool.
The Disney Plus Hulu Max bundle. Plans starting at $16.99 a month.
Hey, I'm Michael. I work in the Everglades as a guide and a scientist, and I use TurboTax. It's a very simple process. Like, I really don't have to do that much, even with 2 jobs. It's just like, provide my forms, one and done. I did have to do a phone call, but it was very simple. Like I said, much like a walkthrough, you know, and they took care of it for me, and I got to get back to my business.
Let a TurboTax live full service expert take taxes off your plate from start to finish. Now this is tax.
Oh, man.
Greetings and welcome to another video. After 2 years of waiting and 1 expansion of training and gearing up our characters, it is about time to look into solo farming trials and raids again. And to get those mounts that we always wanted. But unlike last time, I will explain all you need to know to defeat bosses and clear encounters, as we got a bunch of really tough challenges ahead. So, queue up for a chill alliance raid, enjoy a delicious meal, or a very long and patient tea or coffee. And let's get started. The whole idea of farming mounts solo is to make use of the unrestricted party feature that the game offers, which lets us participate in all sorts of tea or coffee. And let's get started. The whole idea of farming mounts solo is to make use of the unrestricted party feature that the game offers, which lets us participate in all sorts of trial and raid content from the past while retaining our present power level. So for example, I did basically all of these trials with my item level 730 Machinist, 718 Summoner, 729 Dark Knight, or 729 Warrior. But on the DPS side, you can primarily choose the one you feel the most comfortable with, and item level doesn't have to be that high, except for Ruby Extreme main. Especially for the first entries, things are very quick and easy. Only some Stormblood trials and especially the Shadowbringer raids and trials are stepping up the difficulty level very quickly. But starting with a variety of cool horse mounts that you can receive from their respective extreme trials in The Realm Reborn, where you will be fighting some of the most iconic primers of the Final Fantasy universe. So when talking about fighting, it is more like snapping their lights out with our current power level, as you really need one big horse for them to fall. So before trying to make an educated guess on which horse to get, just get them all together, as this won't take more than 1 hour of snapping these bosses. The Nightmare mount on top is actually the one with the lowest drop chance, but you will receive it while farming naturally. Upon earning all of these, take a quest
About to punt a dog.
from the Wandering Minstrel in Mordona that will grant you access to the special horse named Kirin. After that, the difficulty level steps up slightly to the Heavensward Birds.
Logan's
where
death,
some of them
but
have really badass particle animations.
I don't know. He gets on my nerves sometimes.
With whatever job you have access to, but there are a couple of things that you should know
Oh.
before getting annoyed by the farming process. Starting with the Rose Lana, which is the easiest to get as you just have to participate in a quick tete-a-tete with Ravana that doesn't even reach the first stage of its mechanic as we're obliterating him with eager swiftness. However, the color tone is worth every second farming this, and totems can be exchanged in Idleshire for weapons or gimmicks on all tribes mentioned besides this one. The white Lana received from Bismarck Extreme is definitely the most annoying of the bunch, as you simply have to wait for combat stages to change. Starting with killing ads, then making sure to have sprint available that you're able to activate those harpoon cannons in time. So make sure to not get hit by AoEs while doing so. Afterwards, jump onto Bismarck to go into phase 2. Here make sure to kill one of those dragon serpents as soon as possible, as they will tether with a damage immune effect when you're too slow. But don't worry, this has been done in Stormblood already. Afterwards, wait until new ads spawn, then harpoon time again, and jump back on Bismarck afterwards. It will just take some time, but it is technically easy to. The round Lana then is received from the Thornton fight in Extreme, and I haven't managed to kill him in this first phase, but I guess it will still trigger all the stages afterwards, so keep killing all the knights, dodge stuff, and enjoy the visual spectacle. It is a very cool mount for a simple fight now that is a test of endurance like Bismarck is. Coming to the Dark Lana, this one might be my favorite on the color scheme. Overall design is the best about this, the fight is easy as well. Just queue up for Nidhogg, swing, and blast him down as quickly as
Buddy!
There's really nothing you need to be careful with in Dawntrade. But if you're not there yet, but still want to sounds, make sure to check out my previous videos with the matching power level that I had back in the day. The kind of same ease of completion can be applied to the boring Lana for Sephiroth, which now has become very simplified. You just have to finish as quickly as you can, kill some ads and dodge the spike in the final phase, and finish it off. The next one actually had me fighting a couple of hours back in Shadowbringers. However, with Dawntrade power level, you simply have to face Sophia as raw as you can and get rewarded with the Sophic Lana upon defeating her a couple of times. Just make sure to hit your knockback immunity skill on her face transition, or you will be kicked off the platform. The final Lana Observant actually took me quite some time back in the days when I did this challenge the last time. However, now you can easily burst him off, just that the transition is scripted and can be avoided unfortunately. Just tip him afterwards and he is no more. After all Lanas have been collected, you can find a new quest called Fiery Wings Fire.
I don't really remember Red Mage.
So that all the annoying waiting time on Bismarck and Thornton isn't wasted. Coming to the Savage Raids in Heavensward, where only 2 of the Alexander Savage Raids are available. The first being received in the Burden of the Father Savage, where this boss is still a bit tricky and you have to make sure that you keep your big burst for the last remaining lag, because you need to kill it within 3 to 4 seconds. Otherwise, you will be hit with a debuff that is an instant kill even in Dawntrade. The Godwalker might still be interesting to some players, and if you're a Mount Collector, there is no excuse to not add this to your collection. The next one called Arideos is still worth the minimum effort due to how cool your character is hanging on his back. Just queue up Alexander, Sword with Greater Savage, and blast Alexander off in no time. There's really nothing you need to worry about here. Kill ads with Cleave and Leave, and then Alexander again. No difficulty anymore for Dawntrade power levels. Alright, let's come to the Stormblood trials, which have changed quite significantly as well. Unfortunately, the Susanoo Extreme fight can still be soloed to this point in time, but that might change with 1 or 2 more expansions. On Lakshmi and the Blissful Kamui though, things have changed quite significantly. The whole fight can be executed with quick succession, even by just using any DPS job without any notable self-leading capabilities. The most notable change, however, is on Shinryu Extreme. This can be soloed as DPS now, because Shinryu actually doesn't have that much uptime. Just make sure to not get knocked off the platform by preventing the tail swing to destroy already broken platforms. Then dodge the icicles in the back and make sure to get knocked off to the second platform on the face transition. I actually recommend going in with the DPS job for the increased speed of clearing it and a faster farming process for the awesome legendary Kamui. Just before the next wave of wolf mounts, the Great Hunt Extreme awaits. That is a bit painful due to how your damage output diminishes in the last phase. Make sure to burst in as much damage as you can into Rathalos, and when ads appear, only switch to the big body to turn it into a deep wall against Rathalos fire blast. Afterwards, your damage will be significantly reduced, and your completion time now heavily depends on how much damage you have put into the fort. Try to avoid standing in front of Rathalos and use your potions, and don't forget to loot them unlike other bosses. The NPCs for trading in the scales are found in Kudan. And before coming to the next Kamuis, make sure to find the final story dungeon of Stormblood, which will grant you this awesome magic tech now as well. This can be done easily with basically any job and very quickly as well. Next up there's Diako with your auspicious Kamui. Unfortunately you have to play a tank to solo this boss, as the state of shock mechanic will crush you as DPS. At least it did it on my machinist. Maybe a bulky samurai or reaper can do it, or even healers with big shields, but I highly recommend going in with a tank, as it's very simple from that perspective. Just use the solid mitigation after it grabs you the first time, and you're good to go. By the way, check out Console Games Wiki how to unlock these trials if you haven't done that in Stormblood already. If I remember correctly, you should start on the Solar one in the Ruby scene. Next, you see pretty Luna Kamui, found in one of the best extreme trials until now, is now soloable in Dawntrail. I have a full run-through video for it, but basically you have to hold your burst back a bit at the start to let Suki Rumi begin with her casting sequence, and afterwards keep accumulating all your resources in the F phase to burst her down in the second phase, while balancing out wound debuffs. I'm not sure how much gear is required for this, but you should at least get some catch-up gear and try aiming towards a 720 item level for this, just to be sure. Okay, next up we have my toughest challenges in Curve featuring Susaku, with a beautiful euphonious Kamui, which is actually quite doable as DPS now. The ads are a bit problematic, as they will wipe you from the battlefield when they're not getting killed. The trick here though, you can actually avoid that they get resurrected in the first place by just sniping down the big fella in the center. This will allow you to start into the second phase, where it is simply dodging, using your anti-knockback on Melody or the alternative, and keep smashing in some serious numbers, because you want your death before the tank buster happens, as this will crush you. But it's really not a big deal, and damage output should be sufficient even with basic Endwalker and DPS. Seiryu, granting access to the Hallowed Kamui, is also doable as DPS now. Just try to avoid everything you can, and especially don't let yourself be knocked into the water, as this will give you a debuff with which the Stack Buster will kill you. If I remember correctly, only the second Stack Buster needs serious mitigation, so as long as you don't get to that later stage, you should be fine. Alright, things are getting spicier now, so let us hop into Neo X Death Savage, which is quite easy to beat solo now, but I still recommend going in with a tank or healer, as some mechanics need to be cleaned up later on. However, the whole action starts on the second phase. Make sure that you stand correctly on the Grand Crossarm, which will confuse you for a moment and make you walk into a certain direction. Then make sure to stand on the correct side on Flood of North, and always speak to the boss afterwards for the many knockbacks coming. I mean, I have no single clue what this mechanic do exactly, but I could clear that fight in 3 tries, so it's really not a tough one. The next one, God Kafka, can now be defeated as challenging Dark Knight as well. You just have to time shields properly, to avoid getting hit during the Heartless Arc interface, and heal up before the follow-up attacks hit you. It's actually a very fun challenge to do solo, but if you just want the Air Force round, play the Warrior, and this game is easily helpful. Alright, last but not least on Stormblood, we have the Model O mount, which is found within the Omega Alpha Scape encounter. This fight is indeed soloable now, but yet I only managed to do it as Warrior. Everything important happens on the first phase, so you're able to repeat this quickly and learn the proper timings of your mitigations. Just start the fight and smash in your burst quick enough, then move to the right side dodging the ice line attack, while running to the side make sure to use mitigations already, as Omega will use a very powerful tank killer attack. Then Omega M will vendor swap and knock you back. Make sure to stay focused now. Once the tank buster appears, go to the left and pop those mitigations that you still have left over, which should be sufficient for you to survive, but don't use Home Gun yet, as you will need it very soon afterwards. Now make sure to burst another wave of damage into the right target, as one of them will be immune to your attacks. And when Omega casts Enhanced Suppression, use Home Gang to survive the otherwise deadly series of hits coming in. Heal up afterwards and make sure to dodge their mechanics as best as you can, and then enjoy the phase 2, which is kinda self-explanatory and doesn't throw deadly mechanics at you. Just stuff you blink away as a powerful warrior like you are. Okay folks, this is where everything shifts to this and the true challenge is over. I mean, on every single boss, all the Shadowbringers fights are very fun to do solo, except for Emerald Planet. but let's start chronologically. You kinda love or hate her, but the fight is actually quite manageable as tank. To start with, Titania Extreme and basically ignoring all the ads, just try to stand in one puddle at once. Otherwise, you will burn. Just make sure you use proper mitigation on the stack attack, as this will hit like a truck. On the tether mechanic, don't worry too much as it doesn't hurt anywhere close to how it did back in Shadowbringers. Just for paylight, you should be using something. Not like I did here, but it still works, so. The ad phase is also very simple. Kill ads from west to north, east, and dodge line AoEs, and don't let those ads come close together. Then on bigger is better ads, repeat that and make sure to not get knocked off by the vines spawning in certain order. Just stand exactly where I'm standing in the video here. Alright, the final piece of the puzzle is another blue genie mechanic. This time stand in the puddle again, but keep your mitigation at hand, as this will hit way harder now as you will burn him. And I have not yet figured out how to avoid that, but it works by just using the appropriate amount of mitigations. Afterwards, gear up for another Paylight series and strike her last HP down and enjoy your pretty fairy dragon mount. Oh, by the way, I just got this pretty little dancing ring on my first kill, which sold for 350k on my server. So this might actually be another really neat solution to earn some gil in the process. The pretty boy Innocence. Actually quite simple, but lots of stuff to dodge, that are kinda self-explanatory, but also very confusing. Here, I highly suggest being a warrior for the raw passive healing potential and some big burst for the ad phase, because this is where all the music plays. You have to be very quick in killing them as they tether together and reduce incoming damage quite significantly. But there's a remedy, as you can drag them around the arena constantly, and you'll have moments where they get untethered again. So use that time to end their existence quickly. Other than that, it's basically just tanking, healing up again, and showing Innocence that beauty isn't strong, but the powerful mighty actions. When doing this multiple times, you are rewarded with the Innocence River, or might have to trade in lots of tokens if you're very unlucky.
Rule number 1. You never saw me like this, even though I still look very cool. You look like a kidney stone. And you look like someone who would know what that is. Now. Well, hello, bacon. Okay, I feel like there's some backstory that I
shoot.
caught up on. Oh, actually, you know what? Scratch that. I don't want to get attached if you're all... No, which you guys won't. You're not going to do that. I don't even know why I said that. The point is, there's some serious God stuff going down.
What's he like? The happy-faced killer? You mean my dad? I'm glad you never have to know.
You're so much better than me. You're just like your old man. I'm not like you at all.
The next bosses in line are not solvable, unfortunately, as the Hades Ascian Prime phase is not doable at the moment, and the Warrior of Light will roadblock your progress at least on the Force Tank LB3, which you don't have at your disposal. The kinda same applies to inherently fatal mechanics on E8S and E12S, where we're missing some decent amounts of maximum HP to stay alive here. But I will of course update the series once we have grown in power. But it's not the end, my friends. There are 4 more challenges ahead that take this whole encounter thing to a whole new level. Ruby Weapon Extreme. Yes, this took me quite some time to figure out, but I did manage to kill it with my summon. As you really need a handful of bursts in the second phase to actually get further with your progress, as well as some decent self-healing to stay alive on top of that. But first things first. Phase 1 starts quite simply by just mechanics and trying to avoid as many stacks as possible. But fear not, once you clear the first stage, you can repeatedly do the second. However, you might be needing the echo buff, and I'm not entirely sure, as you can accumulate it when you haven't died after 3 minutes in the first phase at least once. So check this out for yourself if you're blasting through Q1 without any issue. Okay, phase 2 has 2 essential burdens. The first being the ads that tether quickly after they have been summoned, so you must burn them down before that happens. On top of that, the average mechanic is earlier than I'm doing it normally, as we only have time until the big meteor comes down, which is definitely not easy to pull off without the proper gear, which also makes tanks incapable of soloing this fight here. Secondly, the incoming damage is too high for just like machinist, so you need something with bursty self-heal. Presenting to us the Summoner. While my machinist is having the better gear, I could manage to kill Ruby X in time. But to achieve that, you have to raise your die before the big meteor comes crashing down, which happens many times on my try. So optimize your gear and rotation, beat this guardian monstrosity, and enjoy the pre-prepared tacos quite easily. Alright, Emerald Weapon, this boss won't be my friend, I guess. Or it is just my thing here in Germany. However, there is a way to beat this boss by aiming those orbs to hit you just in the right time. But this is insanely difficult to do, and I highly recommend checking out the full kill video and guide with the happy if you plan to achieve that. It is somehow doable, but you mentioned that you need a certain thing and server take timing to make it happen. I would highly recommend doing it with 2 people to not hate yourself too much for trying it solo. Diamond Weapon though is actually quite easy. Just make sure that you use the notification orbs correctly and keep your anti-knockback for whenever you're getting confused or in trouble with your position. I mostly used it on the Ori Arts mechanic, where you use it on the side hops and then just track to which side is jumping towards. You might have to try this out for yourself a couple of times, but if you did this boss back in Shadowbringers, you should have no issue defeating it. Okay, now to the final challenge, Eden's Gate Boss Savage. Right now, this is only doable as dark as far as the mechanics go, because you will be using a single macro to defeat the stone prison in the second phase, and other jobs that can't reach that stage due to their lack of defensive survivability. So, let us start this one piece by piece, as nearly every step and move has to sit right there to beat it. In the first phase, you will be picking up the whole fight in your true
Buddy.
You want to avoid basically all mechanics as best as you can.
Nobody wants to hear you barking.
So first use your mitigation, TBN for example, on the first stone crusher.
Buddy.
Then dodge the stone burst patterns as best as you can. After some tries you will get used to the pattern, so don't worry. Depending on what pattern you get, Geo Crush can be anti-knockback or has to be dealt with in the usual way by walking towards the impact area to not get knocked off the arena. Afterwards, Titan will go into either Mario Kart mode or Giga Drill Breaker mode. The first is tricky as you need to walk slightly towards the end of the direction he's facing, but not in line of him. Then use mitigation for the 2 markers and charge in to avoid getting hit with the aftermath explosions. For the 4th line attack, make sure to have mitigation there too. The second pattern works in the opposite way. Stand in line with his facing direction, tank the bursts, and move outwards after that, then back to his speed box, and after that you will be marked with bomb towers. They are actually avoidable by using TBN on their explosions, but placing them apart from each other makes things easier. As then you can tank Titan at 1 rock, wait for the seismic wave attack to start, and use TBN to soak the small rock explosions. You won't receive bomb slash if just 1 or 2 explosions hit you, so don't worry too much. Alright, if you've done it and made it to the second phase, this is where the whole fun begins. Make sure that your Living Dead is ready and don't use Salted Earth or Living Shadow before the stone prison happens. Dodge smash and explosion patterns accordingly, and on the blue marker in combination with the knockback, use as many mitigations as you can, but keep Living Dead for the next big hit, which will then follow inside of the seismic platform phase. As soon as you're focused with the orange and blue marker together, use your Living Dead to avoid getting killed here. And on Plate Fracture, this is where you must be a Dark Knight to solve this mechanic. As you're getting wrapped up in a stone prison, someone needs to rescue from that prison, which will be your Salted Earth and Living Shadow. So make sure to stand on the correct side of platforms, which is indicated by the way Titan is leaning back. As you can see here in the video, he will be aiming at one of the lefternmost platforms. But regardless of his first choice, the second and third hit are a bit luck dependent, which could cause you to lose here just randomly. But anyways,
I'll be right back, guys.
at around 70% of the fracture cast, you should use the Salted Earth and Living Shadow, so that both enter on the right time to free you from your earthly prison. Here make sure that you always choose the spot on the left or right side at the front of Titan of each platform according to Titan's movement, because of how your simulacrum will interact with the hit zone of Titan. This is mandatory to cause its attacks to hit your prison as well. Just try to get there comfortably and you have plenty of tries to work this out. It's just a bit RNG dependent when Titan might hit your platform on the second punch. After you're being released, go back to the safe platform in the back and keep mitigations at hand, as you will soon be needing them again. Now tank and spend a bit more and wait for the second stone prison, that you now just wait off patiently as no platform is getting destroyed while hanging in there. On the next blue and orange marker combination, you need every mitigation you have at your disposal to survive that hit. So make sure to use them in the right order and be prepared to heal up afterwards, by maybe keeping Park and Split or Soul Eater ready. Following this, it is simply Titan 7 and you have to dodge Plate Fracture again, avoid getting killed by another orange and blue marker by using TBN and the rest of your mitigation, which now doesn't hit as hard as before. Then going into phase 3 where the small Titan is thrown back in your face and you have to dodge some more ground exposure, but also some orange and yellow marker combinations where you should always have some mitigation ready. The ground AoEs are actually not that difficult, try to move with them as they explode and do good stuff. Then on the second knockback combined with the
Oh, shoot.
really living damage, so be careful with your TCE timing to heal up right in time. Now, keep up some tanking and stacking and have your TDM ready for any time the marker is coming together with more time explosion. Then you have another wave of charged pit smashes that you have to dodge, followed by the last zone crusher, where some more mitigation is required. And that's why the boss fight if you're doing it solo, but actually something I really enjoyed while filming this footage. If you happen to have Dark Knight available at that level with pizza here, I highly recommend you try it out for yourself.
Wasn't ready for that.
After all that hard work, enjoy your flying bathtub and all the other mounts you ordered. That's it for a whole bunch of solo rounds for now, and if I forgot something, let me know in the comments and I will try out some more challenges for the next week, as well as checking some of the options again when we rise in power level in the next patches or expansions. So, enjoy the mounts you can already farm and stick around for the next part. Until then, stay safe, stay healthy, and keep loving Final Fantasy.
We have so many choices in a single day. How we show up for others, how we show up for ourselves. We get to choose what success looks like to us. A wardrobe that fits the life we built and is new.
Get it before halftime. Get it in as fast as an hour with express delivery. Welcome to your Walmart.
What's he like? The happy face killer?
You mean my dad? Glad you never have to know.
You're a safe old man.
I'm not like you.
Happy holidays, ho ho ho, it's the Christmas season, and that means I'm watching all the holiday classics, such as, The Regenerated Man, yeah. That means that it doesn't matter if I'm home or traveling, because I have ExpressVPN. ExpressVPN is the perfect gift for anyone trying to unlock their streaming services' ultimate potential. Looking for a movie but can't find it? With ExpressVPN, just switch your location to another country like the Netherlands, and in an instant, you'll be watching your favorite sister cloth movies in crystal clear high definition. Grinches like Netflix, Disney Plus, and other streamers hide content from you based on the country you're in. So, ExpressVPN works with real television security and unwraps the entire treasure trove to you with a click of a button. And with over 100 countries to pick from worldwide, you can find Christmas classics like Elf in Australia, or horror slashers like Silent Night, Deadly Night, only in the UK on Flex. ExpressVPN, the options are limitless. Find out how you can get yourself 3 months of ExpressVPN for free by going to expressvpn.com/cinemassacre or by clicking the links in my description below. ready for it? Final Fantasy III. When you saw this fiery fox emerging from your CRT TV, running across the room to your flannel couch, and heard those epic chords ringing out across the wallpaper walls of the wood-furnished living room, littered with fruit roll-up wrappers and Sunday newspaper comics, you knew you were about to play a Super Nintendo game that was truly super and unlike anything that came before. Right away, the code of an ancient war that reduced the world to a scorched wasteland, and magic simply ceased to exist. Now, machine energy is on the rise, but there are some who will enslave the world by reviving the dread destructive force known as magic. Can it be that those in power are on the verge of repeating a senseless and deadly mistake? Now that's taking video game storytelling to a new level. Kinda goes above and beyond Go Rescue the Princess or some shit. The main story opens on a snowy peak. We're introduced to two soldiers of an empire, and Terra is under their control. The soldiers are named Bix and Wedge, or Biggs and Wedge in the Japanese version, a Star Wars reference. They're in search of an elusive magical being known as an Esper, who they have reason to believe is hibernating somewhere in the icy caves. They mention that before Terra was under their control, she had fried 50 of their soldiers in under 3 minutes. It already raises many questions and builds mystery. Are you enthralled yet? This is some good shit. The three march into the snow in their mech suits, known as Magitech armors, as we realize we just watched a pre-credit sequence to a video game. We watched them trek through the 3D Winter Wonderland with those old 7 graphics and that emotional cinematic score as we anticipate the adventure that awaits us. We are about to play the greatest video game of all time. That's right, we're doing this. And what better time? Because I think of this as a winter break type of game. I remember the time off from school, and also there's something about the cold, downcast, melancholy state the game embodies. Also, for the holiday season, I thought I'd give myself a little bit of a gift. You know, because last time I played one of the worst, most fiery, hellish games of all time. But now, I play it to winter polar opposite. But with good games, sometimes there comes a different kind of trauma. Let me tell you a little story here. As you probably know, this is not a game you just pick up and play for 20 minutes before you hop on the school bus, or even a couple hours after you've done your homework. This is a game that you chip away at for several months. It's a work in progress, a hobby of sorts, that you invest yourself in. This is a game you catch up on while you're sick. It was the longest, most all-consuming game of its era. It came out in '94, but sometime I'd say by the summer of '95, I had finally made it to the final area, Kefka's Tower. The finale was in sight. My heart was pounding, my pulse was racing. I was approaching the end of the most epic gaming experience of my life. All of a sudden, the game froze. Yeah, the screen broke up into glitchy colors. Through decades of foggy memory, I'd say it looked something like this. I had never seen anything like that happen before, nor have I ever seen anything like it since. The game restarted, or I had it reset, I can't remember which. The opening scene replayed, which shouldn't happen, so that was a bad omen. So nervously, I waited until I got to the first save point, and there, sure enough, all my save data was erased.
I hope they're ready to heal.
True story. I was definitely an angry nerd that day, especially for a kid with no real-life responsibilities, no family support, nothing like that. No, having your Final Fantasy game erased was a big fucking problem. And that was how my childhood experience with that game ended. And almost 30 years since, I never again attempted to beat the game. I just could not bear to invest myself in it so deeply again. It's like losing a pet and then deciding to get another pet only to one day again face the inevitable. That was fucking sad, I'm sorry. But that theme of loss is commonly cited as being a big part of the game's storyline. And now that so much time has passed, maybe it's time to give it a shot again. Because I'm going to do it. This
This is my second chance. I'm gonna complete my childhood. When this game first came out, it was the most expensive game I ever bought with my own money. It was close to $80 when most Super Nintendo games were closer to 60. I distinctly remember walking into KB Toys at the mall with my saved up cash. I remember the clerk agreeing that it was overly pricey, but to be fair, he said this game takes like 5 to 8 months to beat, which back then was a big deal. The manual was almost like a whole D&D book, full of character stats and information. It even came with a double-sided map. Final Fantasy XIII was the biggest game of its time. Also, I just gotta say, I know, I've been calling it Final Fantasy III because I'm playing the Super Nintendo version and that's what it's called. Of course, the Super Famicom version is called 6, which we all know is the true sequential number, but back then, I had no idea, and neither did anyone else I knew. Not until 7 came out on PlayStation, and I was like, what? How did you get to 7 already? Now, everyone knows way back in my chronologically confused episode. The mix-up has long been cleared. Everyone calls it 6 now. But the cartridge still says 3. The title screen still says 3. Every time I play it, it still says 3. I try giving it the finger, telling it, fuck you, you're wrong. But the game still says 3. Fact. So what made this game different from other fantasy adventure games like Zelda? Well, everything. This was the first RPG
Buddy.
I ever played. My first glimpse of it was at a friend's house. I remember seeing the battle screen and wondering, why are the characters just slashing at the air? Why are there a bunch of numbers popping up? I wasn't used to this more automated, luck-based fight system. What is this, I thought? Some kind of flashy board game turned into a video game? I actually wasn't that far off, having already owned those role-playing board games like Hero Quest and Dragon Strike. I wasn't fully aware how far back its history went with D&D. I didn't know RPGs were a thing, but after Final Fantasy III on Super Nintendo, I sure as hell did. Anyone who's played the game knows how it works, but basically, you build up a large ensemble of heroes. You travel through towns, caves, and dungeons, collecting items.
Even Skylar's like, will you be quiet?
Spells and abilities, and steadily advancing the storyline. On paper, it's like your typical adventure game, but one of the things that made it so extra special for the time was the massive amount of weapons and accessories to equip yourself with, and all the magic and skills to learn. Once you start acquiring the Espers, you can assign them to characters so they can learn certain spells as you go on. This all gives the player the freedom of customizing your characters however you see fit and trying out different combinations of abilities. Speaking of customizing, just the fact that you can name all of them was a fresh concept. Sure, you could do it in games before, but not with that many characters. There's also lots of parts where the characters split up into multiple groups, so you get to pick who goes in each group and who leaves. The characters are really a core element of why this game is so groundbreaking. Never had there been such an amazing ensemble, all with their own unique personalities and rich backstories. The camaraderie of these characters really shines through. It's all about building the team. It's Wizard of Oz. It's Lord of the Rings. Over the course of the adventure, you come to know them, almost like real people. And the fact they can achieve this with little pixelated sprites and minimal graphic technology is a major accomplishment. Passion always comes through in spite of limitations. There isn't even a clear main character. They all seem just as important. If I had to pick one, I'd say Terra, whose father was Esper, which is where her gifted magical abilities come from. Much of her story is about trying to find her identity and place in the world. Having fought on the Empire's side through mind control, she now tries to rectify that by fighting alongside the heroes. Celeste, or Celis, also used to be on the Empire side and has been genetically powered through magic. She eventually turns against the Empire. Locke is a thief, or treasure hunter as he prefers, who's bitter after his girlfriend was killed by the Empire. He eventually has a romantic yet complicated relationship with Celeste. Edgar is the king of Figaro who pretends to be in alliance with the Empire, but is really on the good guy's side. And on top of that, his entire castle is set on fire. So he's also had his share of tragedy. He's a little bit sketchy though. What the fuck? Sabin is Edgar's brother who leaves the royal life to be free. He looks like Guile, and his blitz moves use similar button commands to Street Fighter. Cayenne is a samurai-type character. His town's water supply was poisoned by the main villain Kefka, killing everyone, including his wife and son. Shadow is a more mysterious type of character, a ninja assassin, an outlaw vigilante. He has his loyal dog by his side, and he always comes and goes unexpectedly. The best is when he swoops in to help during a key battle. Gao is sort of a Tarzan-type character, living in the wild, raised by animals. Maybe that's why he scoots on the ground. Ugh, like when your pet leaves those shit comments. There's also Setzer, the Han Solo-like gambler with the fastest airship, which happens to be called the Falcon. There's the little kid Realm and her surrogate grandfather Strago. There's Golgo with the power of Mimic. And Umar, the brute Yeti, who's so physical, he actually throws the other characters. Look at that. And my favorite is Mog. What's his deal? Well, he's a Moogle. I don't know. I just love this guy. So fucking cute. So with all these characters, it really shows how far games had come by that point. Long gone were the days when it was just pick the guy or pick the girl. Now it's so much more than that. And those are just the playable characters. We can't forget Kefka. Kefka is possibly the greatest video game villain ever conceived. He suffered from an experimental magic infusion by the Empire, which made him go insane. After rising to power, he's become a psychotic tyrant who is hell-bent on senseless destruction. He backs it up with cynical, pessimistic ideology, making statements like, there's no point of clinging to life when everyone must eventually die. The dude is messed up. Kefka has caused so much turmoil and given all the characters their own individual reasons to consider him a mortal enemy. Despite ripping the world apart, he brings these characters together with a common goal. So the game is very heavy on characters and story, and that usually is the most discussed aspect of the game. As far as the actual gameplay goes, it's innovative as well, but does it have some flaws? Sure, probably. But in this context, they are forgivable, especially given how pioneering this game was. The random encounters on the overworld screen can get a little annoying, and the leveling up and grinding can sometimes feel monotonous, even though the combat screens are so strangely addicting. Leveling up to max can not only take an insane amount of time, but can also make the game too easy. Also, when you're in a town, sometimes people can get in your way. Come on! Come on! Move your ass! Come on, dude. Come on, get out of the way, you fuck! Ah! Oh, out of my way. Walking in general can feel a little clumsy. You can't go diagonal. Squaresoft later corrected this with Chrono Trigger. Man, now that's a fucking good game too. Maybe that's the other greatest game of all time. The movement is much smoother. I also like how you can see all the characters following. But in Final Fantasy, they all sort of combine into one character. I never understood that.
You know, one time I was working at a convenience store and this guy came in and then he like split up like his body like divided into 4 people. Yeah, turned out he was with his family.
It is cool that the game shows you how much time you put in, although I don't know how accurate that is because it's possible to leave the game on while you're not playing. Also, why does it tell you how many steps you've taken? Are the characters wearing an early version of a step tracker for fitness? One of the things I hate is whenever there's a boss or enemy that has a fatal attack that nukes your entire party. So you have to time it with a light freeze spell or anything to revive at least one member or something to avoid it. This doesn't feel like strategy. It feels almost like a cheat. When the game is unfair, you gotta be unfair. I am aware that sometimes it's possible to get soft locked. Yeah, it's rare, but say for example one character dies and the other one in the party has pawns casted on him. Situations like that, can really suck because now you lost a whole lot of progress. Let's talk about the abundance of attacks and spells. First of all, the characters all have their own special abilities. Kyan has sword tech where you charge up and attack. Shadow throws weapons from your inventory and has his interceptor move. Mog has all the crazy dances. Edgar has tools like a drill and a chainsaw complete with a Jason Voorhees mask. I don't use his bioblaster that much, but I love how it looks. Strago has the lure ability to learn the enemy's spells. And because Setzer is a gambler, his moves are based on a slot machine outcome. Gao has Rage, where he uses the enemy's attacks. Sabin has blitz moves, like I said. It can suck when you mess up the button command, but these moves are some of the most powerful in my experience, especially the Plum Rush. But my favorite might be the suplex. I mean, the dude could pick up an entire train. That's hardcore. As I already mentioned, you can teach all the characters spells with the espers, but also you can use the actual espers to cast massive spells of their own. There's some amazing psychedelic graphics. It does things you wouldn't even imagine were possible on the Super Nintendo. I remember when I first saw this stuff, I was like, what the hell? It seemed like my TV screen was melting. And then there's the more comedic esper spells like Cat Rain. Yeah, it was the cartoon cat that comes by. The design of the enemies is a work of art in itself. They differ from the tiny pixelated hero characters since they're so detailed and can be very large. Take a look at Atma. Is that thing intimidating or what? How about Chupan, Poltergeist, Behemoth, Doom, or Hades Gygus Colossus? That's metal as fuck. Final word on the graphics, with all the spells and enemies, it's a marvel to look at. It's some of the best stuff to come out of the SNES. But it doesn't stop there. The sound effects are amazing, and the music by Nobuo Uematsu sounds like it could have been the score for a major film.
I don't remember how to get over there.
There's been lots of great video game soundtracks up to this point, but this took it to a whole new level. Some of the best music is featured in the opera scene. And speaking of that, this is one of the most memorable scenes. Fans have praised it for its storytelling and its epic nature. There's no denying what an ambitious achievement this was for gaming. But the actual gameplay, my god, this is the most tedious part. So basically, in the story, you're Celeste taking the place of Maria, an opera singer. The whole thing is a scheme to trick Setzer to get him into your party. But anyway, what sucks about it is you have to remember the song lyrics, which you find prior to that. But if you mess any of it up, you have to start all over again. And there's about 30 minutes of a stretch where you can't save the game. As a kid, you did not want to get called to dinner or get interrupted in any way, or God forbid have a power outage. Back then, before autosaving and sleep mode, and before the internet existed as we know it today, we would often get stuck. Had
Wait,
to ask friends
do I go to that tower
on how to get through.
to get across? I can't remember.
Offered much help to this game. I mean, how could it? But let's talk about one of the game's most pivotal chapters of all. It happens after Kefka opens the gate to the Esper world, which causes a major geological event where the entire island becomes a floating continent. The group drops from the airship onto the island and proceeds to embark on a massive dungeon-like sequence, navigating through an elaborate, unstable maze of crumbling areas and excavation holes and fighting all kinds of difficult monsters. The fact that I have to gloss over this part of the experience says so much about the importance of what happens next. At this point in the game, you've played for so long, you would be more than satisfied if this were the final confrontation. Doesn't it seem like it? Kefka kills the Emperor, officially making himself the head villain, and he unleashes the power of the gods. If this were an Indiana Jones movie, this is where the villain would be destroyed by their own recklessness. It has all the formula of a classic confrontation that would be followed by a final peaceful resolution, but no. You race a timer to leave the continent, and when you reach the edge to leap back onto the airship, you're given the option to wait for shadow, or else you permanently lose him. As if you're not already shitting your pants, this guy makes you run the timer down to almost the last possible fucking second. After this, we witness a global catastrophe unlike anything before in a game. The ground rips apart, people fall into earthquakes, the airship is torn in half, everyone is scattered and lost, and then we're met with a black screen with a simple line that resonates so much. On that day, the world was changed forever.
Imagine playing this as a kid. Back in the day, before the internet as we know existed, and we didn't know what was going to happen next. I mean, this could be the ending, could just be one big miserable downer, or we could be nowhere near the end.
Celeste awakens on a small deserted island being cared for by Sid, who's like a parental figure and has a lot of history with the Final Fantasy series. Anyway, after she gains consciousness, Sid succumbs to his own sickness, and you need to care for him by catching and feeding him fish. He can either live or die, which doesn't change a whole lot with the outcome of the game, but if he dies, you witness the most depressing scene of any game I've ever played. Celeste goes to the top of a cliff, reminisces about Lot and how everyone's gone, and with nothing left in her life, she tries to end it all. Looking back, this is the darkest and most shocking thing I've ever seen in a game that was played by kids. But Celeste survives, finds out Lot is still alive, takes a raft, and embarks on a new quest. By going in such a dark place, the game is able to make a point that no matter how bleak things seem, there's always hope. When you think about it, this is why Kefka is such a relevant antagonist, because he thinks life is meaningless. He uses his own trauma to spread despair and bring down all the others. He tries to make all the other characters give up.
Do you want to give up after how far you've come? Hell no!
Even though you've lost everything, and now have to find where your friends have gone, collect all new items, and explore the transformed landscape, which is now called the World of Ruin. This idea was not a brand new concept. Zelda: Link to the Past had a similar
Find the things you love. Welcome to your Walmart. Let's get real. Your butt's not perfect, but at Orgain, we support them all. Whether you're toning up a bubble butt or powering through with that peach, Orgain is the protein-packed nutrition you need to achieve your goals. Orgain, it's real nutrition for real life.
You feel like you're on the wrong road with your finances. Credit Karma can help you push through to a better place with personalized guidance to improve your credit, savings, taxes, and more, so you can find your way to money. Into a Credit Karma, karma you can count on.
Take action with Rogaine, the #1 dermatologist recommended brand. Rogaine. Keep your head in the game.
Pre-game jitters. And an easy-to-use touchscreen
Hey Google, play my pregame playlist.
that you don't always need to touch. The all-new 2025 Equinox and Chevrolet. Together, let's drive.
similar idea with the light and dark worlds, but the way it's done here is entirely different and more relatable.
As you go on, all that talk of the previous world and how things used to be makes so much more sense as an adult. As a kid, how are you supposed to reminisce on the good old days? You have to grow up and experience life first. So for that reason, what I'm trying to say here is that not only does this game hold up today, it's actually better as an adult. Geez, all that talk of how the world went to shit is eerily similar to what happened in the spring of 2020 when it wasn't even possible to function in the same way or do the same things. But we made that climb back. We restored. We're fucking back. And likewise, this game gives you that feeling of building back. Because now, you have to play the rest. In the words of Rambo, nothing is over. In the words of the angry video game nerd, we're only halfway through the fucking game! fucking stairs. Wait a minute. I'm having a flashback. When we get to 20, tell me. I'm gonna throw up.
So once you gain back all your characters, level them up enough, learn enough spells, and build up all your resources, you can make the call and go to Kefka's Tower. You divide into 3 parties. The choices you make are crucial because each group is going to be taking an entirely different path.
I might just go ahead and call it a night, guys. I'm tired of hearing him bark too.
So unless you spend enough time grinding, you might end up with one party that's way weaker than the others. So hopefully you have their powers spread out wisely.
This is
And I cannot remember how to get across.
the place where my game glitched. Remember that theme of loss? I lost my whole fucking game, and now it's time to get it back.
Let me ask a question. Have you ever walked into a bathroom to fight a monster? Yeah, he's right near a toilet. That's a real shitty battle. Kefka's Tower is an endurance. You'll be begging for a fucking safe spot and have many close calls. Oh man, I hope it doesn't glitch again. Anything else?
Alright. Hope y'all have a good night. Peace out. Stay gaming. And later.